Single mom waitress. Paid for a stranger's coffee on Christmas Eve. She didn't know he was the one they salute. The message on Claire's phone wasn't a text. It was her babysitter's whisper, shaky and rushed. "Claire, Liam's inhaler is empty. He's wheezing. I'm trying to keep him calm, but please call me back." Claire froze behind the counter with a tray of mugs in her hands, Christmas Eve lights blinking above the pie case like nothing in the world could go wrong. The dinner rush was gone. Only snow and tired people were left. Then the bell over the door rang, and a stranger walked in like he'd been outside for hours. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you are watching this from. He didn't look at the decorations. He didn't look at the menu. He moved straight to the far booth by the window and sat with his back to the wall. Claire forced her customer smile. "Coffee?" He nodded once. Late 50s, gray and short dark hair, a face carved by wind, not comfort, a plain coat wet at the shoulders, no flash, no brand. His hands stayed flat on the table, fingers spread like he was holding them down. A small tremor ran through them anyway. "Black," he said. Claire poured it and set it down. His eyes flicked to her name tag. "Claire." He read it like it mattered. "Thank you," he said. She walked away, phone heavy in her pocket. She had $22 in tips and $15 in her wallet. Liam's refill cost $38, and Ridgeway was 20 minutes away. Darren, the manager, watched from the kitchen doorway and pointed at the clock. "Keep moving." Claire ducked into the hallway and called Beth back. "How bad?" she whispered. "He's scared," Beth said. "Chest is tight. Bathroom, hot shower, steam. It's helping a little. I'm coming straight home. We'll go to Ridgeway." A pause. "Do you have the money?" Claire swallowed. "I'll have it." Back out front, the diner felt too bright and too quiet. Claire moved on autopilot, wipe, stack, refill, because thinking didn't pay bills. She glanced at the booth. The stranger still hadn't taken a sip. He just held the mug like it was the only warm thing he trusted. Claire walked over with the pot. "You're going to let it get cold." He looked up. "Doesn't matter." "It does if you paid for it." A beat. Then he asked, careful, "They still do the salute here?" Claire blinked. "Salute?" He corrected himself fast. "A ceremony. Veterans." "Oh," Claire nodded. "Noon tomorrow. Courthouse lawn." He nodded slowly, like he'd needed to know. "Thank you." Claire started to step away. "You passing through for family?" "For someone," he said, and the words sounded heavier than they should have. A few minutes later, she saw him counting bills at his booth. Once, twice. His jaw tightened. He stood and came to the register. "I'm short," he said quietly. Claire glanced at the cash. $4 short. "It's just coffee," she said. "It's not," he replied, eyes steady. Darren appeared like he'd been summoned. "Problem?" "I'm short," the stranger repeated. Darren's mouth curled. "Then you don't get it. Pay or go." The stranger nodded once, turned toward the door, and Claire saw it on his face. Shame, clean and silent. Something in her snapped. "Wait," she said. She pulled 4 crumpled dollars from her apron and laid them beside his bills. "I've got it." Darren stared. "Claire." "I've got it," she repeated. The stranger's eyes locked on hers. "Ma'am, you don't have to." Claire leaned in so Darren couldn't hear. "Then don't take it like charity. Take it like I paid your tab. Pay someone else someday." The man held her gaze like he was memorizing her. Then he nodded. "Someday," he said. Claire rang it through. The drawer snapped shut. The stranger took the receipt, folded it small, and slid something onto the counter as he turned away. At the door, he paused. "Merry Christmas, Claire." Her throat tightened. "Merry Christmas." He stepped into the snow. Claire picked up what he'd left behind. A coin, heavy, gold-toned, not money. One side, an eagle. The other, a shield and words stamped sharp. "I've got your 6. Darren barked from the back. "Close up. Lock early." Inside Maples, Darren caught her before she could grab her coat. "You just paid for some stranger," he hissed. "You think this is a charity?" Claire didn't blink. "It's coffee, Darren." "I'm cutting you next week," he said. "Don't argue." Less hours meant no groceries, no gas, no inhalers. "You cut me," Claire said, voice tight, "and you can explain to everyone why your only waitress quit on Christmas." Darren's eyes narrowed. then flicked toward the window like he'd suddenly remembered he didn't know who that stranger was. Claire walked past him and didn't look back. She killed the lights, locked the door, and stepped outside. The cold hit her like needles. Snow churned under her shoes as she hurried toward her car, and heard it. Boots in snow. A voice, crisp and respectful. "Sir." Claire turned. Across the street, half hidden by falling snow, a black SUV idled with its headlights off. A figure stood beside it, posture rigid. The stranger had stopped on the sidewalk. He lifted a hand, precise, practiced, and returned the salute like it was as natural as breathing. Claire's breath caught. Then he climbed into the SUV and disappeared into the white night. Her phone buzzed, Beth again, and reality snapped back. Claire drove fast through snow, ran up the stairs, and found Liam wrapped in a blanket, cheeks flushed, breathing thin and whistling. "Hey, buddy," she said, forcing calm. "We're getting your medicine." Liam nodded, trying to be brave. "I'm trying, Mom." "I know," she whispered, kissing his forehead. She buckled him into the back seat and headed for Ridgeway with the heater blasting. At the pharmacy, fluorescent lights washed everything pale. Claire slid the prescription across the counter. "It's for my son," the clerk typed, didn't smile, named the price. Claire swiped her card. Declined. She tried again. Declined. "Cash?" the clerk asked. Claire counted bills with shaking fingers. $4 short. 4. Her throat closed. She looked at Liam in the car through the window. Small head leaned back, breath fogging the glass. Claire pulled the coin from her pocket and set it on the counter. "Is this worth anything?" The clerk turned it over, unimpressed. "It's a coin." Behind her, the door chimed. A man stepped in wearing a worn veteran cap. He saw the coin and froze like someone had called his name in a crowd. He walked up beside Claire slowly. "Ma'am, where did you get that?" "A guy left it," Claire said. "At a diner. I don't know what it is." The man's jaw tightened. He didn't explain. He just pulled out cash and set it on the counter. "Cover it." Claire grabbed his sleeve. "No, I can't." "You can," he said, eyes hard now, "because your kid needs to breathe." The clerk took the money and slid the inhaler across. Claire snatched it like it might vanish. She ran to the car, snapped the cap off, and guided Liam through 2 slow puffs until the whistle softened and his shoulders dropped. "Better?" she asked. He nodded, exhausted. "Yeah, a little." Claire looked back toward the doors. The veteran who'd paid was already gone, swallowed by snow. She pulled the coin from her pocket again. Under the harsh lights it looked too clean, too official to belong to a random guy short on coffee. Claire started the car, checked the mirrors, and pulled out, because the only thing scarier than questions was staying still with her son in the back seat. Halfway home, her phone buzzed with a new text from an unknown number. "Merry Christmas, Claire. Get him home warm." Claire's hands tightened on the wheel. She didn't know how anyone could know that. She didn't reply. She just drove faster, eyes on the road, Liam's small breaths finally steady behind her. When she got home, Beth was waiting on the couch, worry written all over her face. Claire showed her the inhaler, and Beth's shoulders sagged with relief. After Beth left, Claire sat at the kitchen table with the coin in her palm, turning it over and over until the metal warmed. Her bank app showed what she already knew: overdraft warning, red numbers, a week of thin meals waiting on the other side of Christmas. She set the phone down and stared at her hands, still smelling like coffee. The coin sat there like it didn't belong in her kitchen. Claire rubbed her thumb over the words. "I've got your 6, and the phrase tugged at something buried. "Watch my back, don't leave me." She typed it into her phone, but all she found were military phrases, old photos, and people in uniforms smiling beside coins like trophies. A new message popped up from Darren. "Don't bother asking for New Year's shifts." Claire's chest tightened. She looked toward Liam's room, listened to his breathing, and forced herself to stand. Whatever that coin meant, whatever that stranger was, it had already reached into her life. Outside, the snow kept falling, and somewhere in the dark, a man was being saluted like a king, while she was still trying to understand why he'd ever needed her $4. Christmas morning didn't feel like morning. It felt like a bill collector wearing a Santa hat. Claire woke up on the couch, stiff and sore, with the tree light still on and her phone face down on the coffee table. She listened for the sound she'd been terrified to miss. Liam was breathing, not perfect, Not deep, but steady. She slipped into his room. He was sitting up with his stuffed bear, eyes glassy. "Mom," he whispered, "my chest feels tight again." "Okay," Claire said, keeping her voice soft. "We do it early today." 2 puffs, slow breaths. The whistle eased, just enough to make her knees stop shaking. Her phone vibrated. Voicemail. "Claire, it's Mr. Harlan," her landlord said. "Your rent was due yesterday. Call me today. I can't keep carrying you." The message ended. The silence after it felt loud. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you are watching this from. Claire went to the kitchen and opened the fridge like she didn't already know. She made toast and peanut butter, cut it small, and watched Liam chew like he was trying not to ask questions. At 8:12 a.m., her phone lit up again. Darren. A text this time. "Don't come in today. Don't call. You're off the schedule." Claire typed back fast. "I need my hours. It's Christmas week." The reply came like a slap. "Should have thought about that before you started paying for random men. Not my problem. $4. That was what he'd punished her for." Claire stared at the coin on the table. Heavy, clean. Wrong in her kitchen. She slid it into her pocket, grabbed Liam's coat, and took his hand. "We're going out," she said, "just for a bit." "To see the lights?" Liam asked, hopeful. "Yeah," Claire lied, "to see the lights." Break. Maple's diner looked closed from the front, but the back door was cracked. Claire went around, knocked once, and pushed in before she could talk herself out of it. The kitchen was warm and smelled like bacon grease and bleach. Darren stood at the prep counter counting cash. He looked up. His face hardened. "You didn't read my text?" "I read it," Claire said. "I'm here to talk." Darren scoffed. "I'm not paying you to talk." "You can't cut me for paying a customer's tab," Claire said, voice tight. "That's not—" Darren stepped closer. "You made me look weak, in front of him." Claire blinked. "In front of who?" Darren's eyes flicked to the window, the same flick she'd noticed last night, fear pretending to be anger. "You don't know who you covered," he hissed. "People came by this morning asking questions, real polite, real official." Claire's stomach clenched. "About me?" Darren leaned in, voice low. "They asked what time he left, where he sat. If he said anything? And if I'd seen you take something off the counter." Claire's fingers tightened around her purse strap. "The coin." Darren's smile was thin. "So you do have it?" Claire didn't answer. Darren's tone shifted, slick now, like he could sell her out and still call it business. "Here's what you're going to do. You're going to keep your head down. You're going to stop running your mouth. And you're going to thank me for not telling them you were the one who—" "Who what?" Claire snapped. "Who paid $4? Darren's eyes flashed. "Who got involved?" Claire held his stare. "Put me back on the schedule." Darren laughed, short and ugly. "You want hours? Then you better hope whoever's sending you those little texts decides you're worth saving." Claire's blood chilled. "You saw my phone?" "I saw a black SUV outside my diner," Darren said. "And I saw you last night. Don't play dumb. You're not a hero, Claire. You're a waitress with overdue rent." Claire's face burned. "Give me my tips from last night." Darren slid a small envelope across the counter like it hurt him. "Merry Christmas." Claire snatched it and left before she said something that would get her fired for good. Outside, she found Liam sitting on the curb by the dumpster, kicking at snow. "Mom, can we go now?" he asked. "Yeah," she said, breath shaking. "We're going." Break. Main Street was busy. Wrapped boxes, carols, kids dragging parents toward the giant tree. But under it all, Claire noticed something else. Uniforms. A pair of deputies at the courthouse steps, 2 men in dark coats with earpieces pretending they were just admiring the wreaths. A black SUV parked half behind a delivery truck like it didn't want to be seen. Claire's hands tightened on the wheel. She turned the radio on and heard a cheerful host talking over jingle bells. "And don't forget, folks, noon sharp at the courthouse lawn. Big turnout expected. Out-of-town guests. Let's show them Cedar Hollow pride. Out-of-town guests." Claire looked at the coin in her pocket like it was suddenly heavier. She drove to Ridgeway Pharmacy because last night's veteran had come from somewhere, and the pharmacy felt like the only place that had told her the truth, even if it had been the truth she didn't want. The same clerk stood behind the counter, eyes tired. Claire leaned in. "The man with the veteran cap from last night. Do you know him?" The clerk didn't look up. "No. He paid for my son's inhaler." A pause, just long enough to prove the clerk was choosing his answers. "Ma'am," he said quietly, finally meeting her eyes, "if you're looking for him, don't." Claire felt her skin tighten. Why? The clerk's gaze flicked to Claire's pocket like he could see through fabric. Because people who carry things like that don't want attention. Claire swallowed. "My phone got a message about my kid. How would anyone know?" The clerk's voice went lower. "Go home. That's all I can tell you." Claire turned to leave, then stopped. "Is my son in danger?" The clerk hesitated, just long enough to answer without lying. "Not if you listen." Break. The VFW hall by the tracks was the next stop, a squat brick building with an American flag out front and a parking lot half full, even on Christmas. Inside, men sat at folding tables with coffee and cards. When Claire walked in, the room didn't stop. It lowered, like someone had turned a dial. A woman behind the counter looked up. "Can I help you, hon?" Claire set the coin down. The woman's face changed instantly. Not surprise, recognition. A chair scraped, cards hit a table. Someone stood like they'd been ordered to. Then the veteran from last night appeared from the side room. Same cap, same steady eyes. "You," Claire said, breath catching. "Why didn't you tell me your name?" He didn't touch the coin. He didn't even look at it for long. "Not here." "What is this?" Claire demanded. "Because my manager cut my hours, my rent is late, and my son—" "I know," he said. Claire's stomach dropped. "How do you know?" The veteran's gaze flicked toward the back door. Two men near it had shifted, suddenly alert, like they were listening to the parking lot through the walls. Claire lowered her voice, furious and scared at once. "Last night he got saluted. Then I got a text about my kid. Now everyone looks at this coin like it's a grenade. Tell me what's happening." The veteran stepped closer, peppermint and coffee on his breath. "Put it away." "No." His eyes hardened. "Ma'am, no," Claire repeated. "Not until I find him." The veteran's expression didn't soften, but something in it cracked, just a hair. "You don't find him," he said. "He finds you." The woman behind the counter leaned in, voice sharp. "Stop asking questions in rooms with walls." Claire snatched the coin and backed toward the door, with Liam pressed against her leg. Outside, the wind slapped her face raw. She got Liam into the car, hands shaking, and her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Go straight home. No stops." Claire's pulse spiked. She didn't type. She didn't call. She just drove. Halfway there, her phone rang. "Mr. Harlan," Claire answered on speaker, forcing calm. "Hello? You got my voicemail?" the landlord snapped. "I'm coming by today. I'm done getting excuses." "I'm working on it," Claire said. "It's Christmas." "Christmas doesn't pay mortgages," Harlan said, "and if you don't have it by Monday, I start eviction." Claire's grip whitened on the wheel. "Monday is 3 days." "Then you better find a miracle." He hung up. Break. Claire turned onto her street and found a white paper stuck to her apartment door, flapping in the wind. Not a notice from the office, a taped-on warning. Past due. Claire didn't even park right. She killed the engine, scooped Liam up, and rushed inside. The apartment smelled like cold air and burnt toast. She set Liam down and heard it, knocking, hard. She froze. The knocking came again, louder. Liam's eyes went wide. "Mom?" "Go to your room," Claire said. "Take your bear. But now." He ran. Claire walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Deputy uniform. Her heart dropped. She cracked the door. "Yes?" The deputy stood on her landing, calm, hands visible, like he'd been trained to look harmless. "Ms. Carson?" he asked. Claire swallowed. "Yes." "Step out for a moment," he said. "We need to ask you a few questions about last night." Claire kept the chain on. "Questions about last night?" she said, forcing her voice not to shake. "At the diner?" The deputy nodded once, polite the way a door can be polite right before it closes. "Yes, ma'am, just a few. Routine." Behind him, the stairwell smelled like wet wool and old pine cleaner. Somewhere upstairs, a TV played a Christmas movie too loud, normal life trying to drown out the sound of trouble. Claire glanced back over her shoulder. Liam's bedroom door was cracked a sliver, a small eye peeking through. Claire lowered her voice. "My son's inside. He's sick." "I understand," the deputy said. "This won't take long. If you'd step out." She unhooked the chain and stepped onto the landing, pulling the door almost shut behind her so Liam wouldn't see her face. The deputy didn't fill the space with threats. He didn't need to. His partner stood 2 steps lower, hands folded, watching the hallway like it was a perimeter. "Ms. Carson," the first deputy said, "you were working at Maple's Diner last night around 9. "Until close," Claire answered, "and you interacted with a gentleman who paid for coffee, sat by the window." Claire's throat tightened. Lots of people drink coffee. The deputy's eyes stayed gentle. This one left something behind. Claire felt her pocket like it had turned to ice. "What did he leave?" she asked, playing dumb. The deputy smiled slightly, like he'd expected the lie and didn't take it personally. "A coin." The word landed harder than it should have. "I don't know anything about that," Claire said. His partner shifted half a step, not aggressive, just reminding her there were 2 of them. The first deputy kept his voice low. "We aren't here to accuse you of anything. We're trying to make sure that item doesn't end up in the wrong hands." Claire stared at him. "Wrong hands like mine?" "Wrong hands like somebody who'd sell it online," he said, "or flash it around, or use it to get close to the wrong people." Claire's pulse pounded in her ears. "I didn't steal anything." "No one said you did," the deputy replied, still calm. "But you did pick it up." Claire's breath caught. "How would you know that?" He didn't answer directly. "We need you to come down to the station, Ms. Carson. Statement, 10 minutes. "No," Claire said, too fast. The deputy's politeness didn't change. "Ma'am, it's easier if you cooperate. People get protective about these things." Claire felt heat climb into her cheeks. "I have a kid inside. I can't just leave him." The deputy nodded. "Then bring him. We'll keep it quick." Liam's door creaked behind her. "Mom?" Liam's voice cracked. Claire turned and saw him standing barefoot in the hallway, clutching his bare inhaler in the other hand like it was a weapon. The deputy's gaze softened for real this time. "Hey, buddy. We're not here to scare you." Liam didn't answer. His breathing was already a little fast. Claire crouched beside him. "Go sit on the couch," she whispered. "Put on your socks." Liam's eyes flicked to the deputies. "Are you taking you?" "No," Claire lied. "They just need to talk to me." Liam grabbed her sleeve. "Don't go." Claire kissed his forehead. "I'll be right downstairs, right here." She stood, looked at the deputy. 5 minutes, she said. "On the landing, no station." The deputy hesitated, then nodded like he'd been given permission to keep the peace. "Fair," he said. "We'll do it here." He took out a small notebook. "Did the gentleman say his name?" "No." "Did he mention the courthouse ceremony?" Claire's stomach tightened. He asked if they still did it. "Did he say why he was in town?" "For someone," she said, and hated herself for giving anything. The deputy wrote it down. "Did he give you the coin or did you take it after he left?" "I picked it up," Claire admitted, "because it was on the counter and because my manager was screaming and I was trying to close." "Where is it now?" the deputy asked gently. Claire didn't answer. The deputy sighed, not frustrated, resigned. "Ms. Carson," he said, "I need you to understand something. That coin is not a souvenir. It identifies someone, and there are people who would hurt to get close to who it belongs to." Claire's chest tightened. "So it belongs to him. It belongs to a world you don't want inside your apartment," the deputy said. "We can take it off your hands. Quietly." Claire stared at his face and realized the truth. This wasn't about theft. It was about control. "If I give it to you," Claire said, "what happens to me?" "Nothing," he replied. "And what happens to my job, my rent, my son's medicine?" Claire's voice cracked. "Because somehow, the second I touched it, my life started falling apart." The deputy's pen paused. His partner glanced down the stairwell, then back, like he didn't want to be having this conversation in public. The first deputy spoke softer. "Your life was already hard, Miss Carson." Claire swallowed. "So you're here to make it harder?" "I'm here to keep you safe," he said. "Then stop showing up at my door," Claire snapped. A beat. The deputy closed the notebook. He didn't threaten her. He just changed tactics. "Ms. Carson," he said, "we're going to need that coin by end of day. If you don't hand it over, someone else will come ask. They might not be as polite." Claire's skin went cold. She opened her mouth to answer. Then Liam coughed inside the apartment, a small, wet sound that punched through her anger like a needle. Claire looked past them, down the stairs, and for a second, she saw the black SUV at the curb, half hidden by a neighbor's van. Engine running, no headlights, like last night. The deputy followed her gaze. His face tightened just for a second. That was all she needed to know. He tipped his hat slightly. "Merry Christmas," he said, like they were done. Then both deputies walked away without looking back. Claire locked the door with shaking hands and leaned against it, breathing hard. Liam stood in the living room, eyes wide. "Why were they here?" Claire forced a smile that hurt her face. "Just grown-up stuff." "Are we in trouble?" Claire looked at him. His cheeks were still pale. His inhaler was almost new, but already she was counting the doses like they were dollars. "We're okay," she said. "We're okay." Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Do not give the coin to anyone in uniform. If they come back, don't open the door." Claire stared at the screen until it blurred. She typed, "Who are you?" The reply came immediately. A friend of his. Claire's hands shook so badly she dropped the phone onto the couch. Break. By late morning she couldn't sit still anymore. Every sound in the hallway made her flinch. Every car door outside made her heart climb into her throat. She needed money. She needed control. She needed air. She bundled Liam up and drove to the church down the street because the Christmas pantry was handing out boxes and Pride didn't feed kids. The line wrapped around the building. Families in old coats, elderly couples, people pretending they weren't desperate. Claire kept her head down. Halfway through the line, she felt eyes on her, not the normal kind, not curious, tracking. She glanced to the side and saw a man in a dark coat standing near the corner of the church, hands in his pockets, looking at nothing, except every few seconds his gaze would flick to her, then away. Claire's stomach tightened. She turned Liam so his back faced the man. "Stay close," she whispered. When it was her turn, the volunteer smiled, handed her a box. "Merry Christmas?" Claire nodded, throat tight, and pushed outside, only to see the man in the coat walking away like he'd gotten what he came for. Claire loaded the box into her trunk. As she shut it, she spotted something tucked under her windshield wiper. A folded sheet of paper. Not a ticket, not a flyer. A receipt. Ridgeway Pharmacy. Last night, inhaler paid. And written on the back in clean block letters, Courthouse, 11:45, come alone. Claire's mouth went dry. She looked around. The dark coat man was gone. Liam tugged her sleeve. "Mom, can we go home?" Claire looked at her son, then at the courthouse clock tower visible at the end of Main Street. A part of her wanted to drive straight home and lock every bolt. Another part of her was tired of being pushed around by people who spoke in threats wrapped in politeness. "We're going," she whispered, mostly to herself. "But you said we were going home," Liam said. "We are," Claire lied again, after one stop. Break. At 11:30, she dropped Liam at Beth's with the food box and a forced smile. "Just for an hour," Claire said. "I have to straighten something out." Beth frowned. "Claire, you look like you haven't slept." "I haven't," Claire admitted. "Please, just keep him calm. If he coughs—" "I know," Beth said, eyes sharp now. "What's going on?" Claire shook her head. "I can't explain it. Not yet." Beth opened her mouth to argue. Then she saw Claire's hands shaking. "Okay," Beth said softly. "Go. But call me if—" Claire nodded and left before she could change her mind. The courthouse lawn was already crowded, even before noon. Flags, folding chairs. A podium with microphones. A brass band warming up. Instruments catching pale winter sun. Honor guard rehearsing their steps like the ground itself was watching. Claire parked 2 blocks away, heart hammering, and walked fast, head down, trying to look like she belonged. She didn't. She felt it immediately, the way people scanned her, then looked away too quickly. Near the steps, 2 men in dark coats stood with their hands folded, eyes constantly moving. One spoke into a sleeve. Claire's breath hitched. She turned, pretending to check her phone, and saw the black SUV behind a line of parked cars, angled so it could pull out fast. Same one. No plate on the front. She moved toward the edge of the crowd, toward the small stand of trees where she could see without being seen. 11:43. 11:44. At 11:45 on the dot, someone stepped beside her so quietly she didn't hear the approach. A woman, mid-30s, hair tight in a bun, coat too plain to be fashion. She looked like a teacher, or an accountant, or someone you'd never notice, except her eyes didn't stop moving. "Claire Carson?" the woman asked. Claire's stomach dropped. "Yes." The woman didn't introduce herself. "You have the coin?" Claire's hand went to her pocket instinctively. "Who are you?" "Not the police," the woman said, "and not your enemy." Claire's voice came out thin. "Then why are there deputies at my door?" The woman's eyes flicked toward the steps. "Because they're doing their job, and because they don't know how to handle what they're standing next to." Claire felt her knees go weak. "What is he?" The woman looked at her for a long second, like she was weighing whether Claire could carry the truth without breaking. Then she said, "You saw him get saluted." Claire nodded. The woman's voice went quieter. "In this town, they're about to salute him again. Not because he's rich, not because he's famous, because men who don't salute for anyone salute for him." Claire's throat tightened. "So why me?" The woman's gaze dropped to Claire's pocket. "Because you didn't know. You paid anyway." Claire's anger flared, sharp and desperate. "And now I'm getting threatened, losing my job, about to get evicted?" "I know," the woman interrupted, and the way she said it made Claire feel naked. "And that's why I'm here." The woman slipped something into Claire's hand, a small envelope, thick. Claire's fingers curled around it automatically. "What is this?" Claire whispered. "Don't open it here," the woman said. "Walk away. Go to your car. Read it in privacy." Claire's mouth went dry. "Is it money?" The woman's jaw tightened. "It's options." Claire swallowed. "I didn't ask for this." "No," the woman agreed. "You asked for $4 worth of coffee to not ruin a man's night, and somehow that mattered more than you understand." Claire stared at her. "Where is he?" The woman's eyes flicked to the black SUV. "Right where he needs to be." Claire turned her head slightly, trying to see through the windshield glare. A silhouette in the back seat, still, watching. Her phone buzzed again in her pocket. Unknown number. "Don't open the envelope. Not yet." Claire's breath caught. The woman's eyes narrowed. She'd seen Claire's reaction. "They're still texting you," the woman said, voice sharp now. "Give me your phone." "No," Claire said, "if you want your son safe." "My son is safe when I'm the one making choices," Claire snapped. The woman's face hardened, and for the first time she looked less like a helpful stranger and more like someone trained to take control. "Claire," she said, slow, "you're standing in the middle of something bigger than you. Bigger than this town. Bigger than a diner manager." Claire's throat tightened. "Then stop dragging me through it." The woman leaned in, voice low. "Hand me the coin, right now." Claire's fingers tightened in her pocket around the heavy metal. "No," she said, and surprised herself with how solid it sounded. The woman's eyes flashed. "You don't get to keep it." Claire's voice shook, but she didn't back down. "Then tell me why I'm being hunted for it." The woman stared at her for a beat, then exhaled through her nose like she'd run out of patience. "Because that coin is his identity," she said, "and because someone else already knows you have it." Claire's blood turned to ice. "Who?" The woman didn't answer, because at that exact moment, the courthouse loudspeaker crackled and the announcer's voice boomed over the lawn. "Ladies and gentlemen, if everyone could please stand." The crowd shifted. People rose, chairs scraped. The honor guard snapped into position. Claire's heart hammered so hard she thought she might throw up. The band lifted instruments, and from behind the parked cars, the black SUV's rear door opened. Claire saw his boots hit the pavement first, then his hand, steady, precise, adjusting his coat, then his face, turning slightly, eyes scanning. And when his gaze found Claire at the edge of the crowd, it didn't slide away. It locked on her like he'd been looking for her the whole time. Claire's phone vibrated in her pocket again, and before she could stop herself, she pulled it out. One new message. If she gives them the coin, Liam loses. Claire's breath stopped. Her eyes snapped back to the woman beside her, but the woman's hand was already moving toward Claire's pocket, fast and decisive, and Claire jerked back, and the envelope slipped from Claire's grip, hit the snow, split open, papers scattering, and one photograph landed face up at Claire's feet. A military funeral, a folded flag, a young soldier's face in a frame. Claire's knees buckled because she knew that face. She hadn't seen it in years. Liam's father, and stamped in the corner of the photo, bold black letters, Classified, do not release. Claire reached down, shaking, to grab it, and the woman's hand clamped on her wrist hard enough to hurt. Claire yanked her wrist back, but the woman's grip held like a clamp. "Let go," Claire hissed. The woman didn't. Her nails pressed through Claire's sleeve. "You can't have that," she said, eyes fixed on the photo like it was radioactive. Claire's pulse was a drum in her throat. Around them, the entire lawn had stood, hundreds of people facing the courthouse steps, hats off, hands over hearts. The band held the first note in their lungs. Nobody was watching the edge of the crowd. Claire twisted hard. Pain shot up her arm. The woman tightened. And Claire did the only thing she had. She stomped down on the scattered papers, grinding them into the snow, and then shoved her shoulder into the woman's chest. The woman stumbled half a step. Claire snatched the photo of Liam's father and shoved it into her coat. "Don't!" the woman snapped, voice suddenly sharp enough to cut. "Claire, listen to me!" A gloved hand caught the woman's elbow from behind. A man in a dark coat, earpiece, the kind of face that didn't smile for cameras. "We have movement," he murmured into his sleeve, eyes locked on Claire. Claire backed away, heart smashing against her ribs. She didn't run yet. Running made you obvious. She moved. Just a fast walk through the standing crowd, head down, like she belonged. The announcer's voice boomed again. "Please remain standing for the arrival of—" The name cut out under a wave of applause. Claire didn't hear it. She was watching the line of cars, the open SUV door, the man stepping forward like the ground had been waiting for him. He was close enough now that she could see it wasn't pride on his face. It was duty. And something else under it. Wait. His gaze stayed on her, not panicked, not confused, warning. Claire's phone vibrated again in her pocket. She didn't look. She didn't dare. She pushed through the last row of chairs and slipped behind a family with 2 kids in matching scarves. A second later, she was at the sidewalk, then the street, then the space between parked cars where no one could see her hands shaking. She didn't know what she was doing. She just knew she couldn't let that woman take the coin. Because the text said, "Liam loses." That was enough. Claire reached her car and fumbled the keys. Her hands were so cold, she almost dropped them. She got the door open, slid inside, locked it, and sucked in a breath so deep it hurt. The courthouse loudspeaker crackled. The band finally started, loud enough to vibrate the windshield. Claire looked down at the envelope the woman had given her. It was still in the snow somewhere behind her. She'd lost it. But she had the photo, and she had the coin. And now she had eyes on her. In the side mirror, she saw the woman scanning the sidewalk like a predator who'd lost a scent. The man with the earpiece spoke into his sleeve again. Claire started the engine. A knock hit her window. She flinched and turned. The stranger stood beside her driver's door. No coat hood now, no hiding. Snow melting on his shoulders, his face calm but carved with something old. Claire's breath locked in her lungs. He raised a hand, palm open, not a threat, a request. Claire cracked the window an inch. "What do you want?" she whispered. His voice was quiet, but it carried like a command anyway. "You need to leave." Claire's eyes flashed. "No, I need answers." He didn't argue. He glanced toward the courthouse where the crowd stood frozen in ceremony, then back to her. "You shouldn't have come," he said. "I got a receipt under my wiper," Claire snapped. "It told me to come alone." His jaw tightened. "That wasn't from me." Claire's stomach dropped. "Then who?" "Someone who wants you in the open," he said. And for the first time his calm slipped. Not fear for himself. Fear for her. Claire swallowed hard. "They came to my door. Deputies, asking about the coin." His eyes narrowed. "Did you give it to them?" "No." A flicker of relief. Then it was gone. "Good," he said. Claire's voice cracked. "Who are you?" He didn't answer the way she expected. He asked his own question. "Where's your son right now?" "With a sitter," Claire said. "Why?" He leaned closer to the cracked window. "Drive straight there. Do not go home." Claire's chest tightened. "Why?" Because he didn't have time to soften it. "Because if they can't get the coin," he said, "they'll get leverage." Claire felt her blood turn to ice. "You mean Liam?" His eyes held hers. "Yes." Claire's hands started shaking again. "You don't even know him." "I know his father," the man said. The words hit like a car crash. Claire's throat closed. "My husband is dead." "I know," he said, voice lower, "and I'm sorry." Claire's eyes burned. Then why is his funeral photo in an envelope marked classified? His gaze flicked to her coat pocket. You have it. Claire didn't deny it. She couldn't. He exhaled slow through his nose, like he'd been trying to keep this clean, and someone had spilled blood on the floor. Listen to me, he said. Whatever you think happened to him, there's more. And people don't want you to know. Claire's anger surged, raw and messy. I didn't want to know. I wanted to work my shifts and pay my rent and keep my kid breathing. You walked into my diner and now you're being watched, he finished steady. Because you touched something that isn't supposed to be in civilian hands. Claire's mouth went dry. Then take it back. He shook his head once. Not here. Why not? She demanded. His gaze cut past her to the street. A black sedan had rolled to the corner and stopped without a reason, 2 silhouettes inside. They're already too close, he said. Claire's heart hammered. Who are they? He didn't answer directly. People who don't salute, he said. People who take. Claire's breath shook. Then why did you leave the coin? His eyes softened for the first time. I didn't mean to, Claire stared at him. That makes no sense. He looked away just for a second, then back like he'd decided to tell her the part she could handle. I was short, he said. You covered it. You didn't ask who I was. You didn't ask for anything. You treated me like a man, not a symbol. Claire's eyes stung. It was $4. It wasn't, he said, voice rougher now. Not to me. The courthouse band swelled, louder, and somewhere the crowd cheered again. The ceremony was moving forward without him, without the man everyone had come to salute, and he was here, at Claire's window, choosing her over them. Claire's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Answer. Call now. Claire didn't move. The stranger's eyes flicked to her phone. Don't. Claire's throat tightened. You're texting me? He didn't blink. No. Her fear sharpened into something colder. Then someone else is. He nodded once. Yes. Claire swallowed hard. They said if I give the coin to anyone in uniform, Liam loses. The stranger's face changed. Not panic, not surprise, recognition. He leaned in close to the cracked window, voice so low she barely heard it over the band. Claire, he said, do you trust me? Claire's laugh came out broken. I don't even know your name. He held her gaze. Then trust what you saw. You saw me get saluted. You saw the way they stood. You saw who looked scared. Claire's hands clenched on the steering wheel. He continued, calm but urgent. Drive to your sitter. Take your son. Go to the address I'm going to give you. Do not stop. If anyone tries to pull you over, you keep going and call 911. Claire's mouth went dry. You're telling me to run from the police? I'm telling you to run from whoever's pretending to be them, he said. Claire's chest tightened. What about my apartment? My stuff? Stuff can be replaced, he said. Your son can't. Claire felt like she might vomit. He slipped a small card through the cracked window, blank on one side, handwritten on the other with an address and a time. 12:20. Where is this? Claire whispered. Safe, he said. Claire's eyes darted to the corner where the black sedan still waited. I can't, she whispered. The stranger's face tightened. You can. Then his phone buzzed in his pocket. He checked it once and his jaw set like stone. They saw me, he said. Claire's skin went cold. Who? He didn't answer. He stepped back from the window, scanning the street, and for the first time she saw it, how he moved, not like a man trying to be tough, like someone trained to stay alive. He looked back at her. One more thing, he said. Claire swallowed. What? His voice dropped, heavy. Do not let anyone take that photo from you. Not police, not deputies, not anyone. If you lose it, you lose the truth. Claire's throat tightened. What truth? The stranger's eyes held hers for one beat, and in them she saw something that didn't belong on Christmas. Regret. Then he said, Your husband didn't die the way they told you. Claire's breath stopped, and at that exact moment, the black sedan's doors opened. 2 men stepped out, moving fast, straight toward Claire's car. The stranger's hand shot up, not to fight, just to signal. Go, he barked, voice suddenly sharp enough to slice through the music. Claire slammed the car into drive, As she pulled away, tires crunching snow, she saw the stranger step into the street, not running, not backing down, just placing himself between her and them like it was the most natural thing in the world. In her rearview mirror, one of the men reached inside his coat. Claire's hands shook so badly she almost clipped a parked car. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call. Unknown number, and the screen flashed one word like a threat. Liam. Claire's finger hovered over answer. Claire's finger hovered over the screen. Unknown number. Liam. Her throat locked. She glanced at the rearview mirror. Two men closing distance on foot. The stranger stepping into the street like a human barricade. No panic in him, just decision. Claire hit answer. "Mommy!" Liam's voice came through, small and thin, like it had to travel through a room full of fear to reach her. Claire's chest caved. "Liam, baby, are you okay? Where are you?" A pause. Too long. Then another voice slid in, smooth and adult. "He's fine. For now." Claire's hands tightened on the wheel until her knuckles blanched. "Who is this?" "Someone who doesn't like misunderstandings," the voice said. "You have something that doesn't belong to you." Claire's blood went cold. "He's with Beth. You're not—" "I'm with your son," the voice cut in, calm as a lullaby. "You want him to keep breathing easy? You're going to turn around." Claire swallowed hard, eyes burning. "Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you are watching this from." She forced her voice to stay even. "Put him back on." A soft laugh. "He's scared. You want to talk to him? You do what you're told." Claire glanced at the mirror again. The men were still behind her, but now she was gaining space. The street ahead opened onto Main, then the turn toward Beth's. The stranger's words rang in her head. Leverage. Claire took the coin from her pocket with one hand, like touching it could keep her steady. "What do you want?" "The coin," the voice said, "and the photo you took." Claire's stomach dropped. "You know about the photo." Another pause, then, "Turn around. Courthouse. Now." Claire's foot stayed on the gas. "No." Liam's voice again, shaking. "Mom, I don't like this." Claire's eyes flooded. "Baby, listen to me. Are you hurt?" Liam started, then the line crackled and the adult voice returned. "He's not hurt," the voice said. "Don't make that change." Claire's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "You're in Beth's apartment." "I'm where I need to be," the voice replied. Claire forced herself to breathe. She couldn't speed her way through this. She needed a move that didn't get her son punished. She lowered her voice, soft and pleading, the way she talked to Liam when his chest tightened. Okay, I'm turning around." She didn't. She signaled right, then at the last second, cut left into a narrow side street, tucked between two buildings where the snow had piled high and the road narrowed into a squeeze. "Hey!" the voice snapped. Claire killed the call. Then she did the one thing she'd never done in her life. She drove like someone chasing oxygen. She threw the car around a corner, tires sliding, then straightened out and pushed toward Beth Street. Her phone immediately rang again. Unknown number. She ignored it. It rang again. Ignored. A text buzzed, flashing across the screen. "Pick up or he gets it." Claire's vision tunneled. She shoved the phone into the cup holder and didn't look at it again. When she turned onto Beth's block, her stomach flipped. A dark sedan sat at the curb near Beth's building, engine idling, two silhouettes inside. Not the same angle as a neighbor's car, not the same patience. Claire didn't park. She rolled past, slow, eyes forward like she didn't see it, then went around the block. On the second pass, she watched the sedan's brake lights flicker, as if deciding whether to follow. Claire's mind ran fast, sharp. If she stopped, they'd be waiting at the door. If she called Beth, they'd hear. She needed to get Liam out without letting them see her do it. Claire swung into the small grocery lot at the end of the street, parked behind a delivery van, and climbed out with her hood up and her head down. She jogged back along the sidewalk, cutting through an alley to reach Beth's building from the rear entrance. The back door was supposed to lock. It was cracked open. Claire's pulse spiked so hard she almost turned around, but Liam's voice echoed in her head. "Mom, I don't like this." Claire slipped inside. The hallway smelled like fried onions and cheap candles. Someone's TV blared a game show. Normal. Too normal. She climbed the stairs quietly, every step controlled, like sound could get her son killed. Beth's door was shut. The chain wasn't on. Claire's hand shook as she reached for the knob. She pushed. It swung open. Beth was on the floor in the living room, eyes wide, mouth taped, wrists bound with a scarf. Her face was red from crying. Claire's blood turned to ice. "Beth," Claire whispered, dropping to her knees. "Oh my God!" Beth made a muffled sound, frantic, eyes darting toward the hallway. Claire followed the look. Liam's bedroom door was half open. Claire's heart slammed. She stood slowly, keeping her breathing quiet, and stepped into the hall. From inside Liam's room she heard a man's voice, low and calm, like he was explaining something reasonable. "So you're going to be brave, right? Mommy's going to bring something back, and then we're all going to be okay." Claire's fingers tightened around the edge of the doorframe until her nails bit her skin. She looked down. On the floor by the wall sat Liam's inhaler. No child drops that. Claire backed one step, reached into her coat and pulled out the coin. Heavy, cold. She held it tight in her fist like a rock. Then she stepped into the doorway. A man stood near Liam's bed, back to her. Dark coat, short hair, one hand resting casually on Liam's shoulder like they were friends. Liam sat on the mattress, stiff, eyes glossy with tears. His gaze snapped to Claire. "Mom," he whispered. Then he froze like he wasn't sure he was allowed to. The man turned. Not a deputy, no uniform, clean face, eyes flat. He smiled like he had the right to. "Claire," he said softly. "There you are. We were worried." Claire didn't move. "Step away from my son." The man's smile didn't fade. "You're making this dramatic." Claire's hand clenched tighter around the coin. "Step away." He raised his hand slightly like a teacher calming a child. "No one is here to hurt anyone. We're here to retrieve property." "That coin isn't yours," Claire said. "It's not yours either," he replied. Claire's voice shook. "You taped my friend's mouth." He shrugged. She screamed. Liam's small voice cracked. "Mom, I want you." Claire's chest split open. She forced herself not to rush because rushing would get him grabbed. She took one slow step forward. "Let him come to me." The man's eyes flicked to her fist. "Is that it?" Claire didn't answer. He sighed like she was wasting his time. "You saw someone get saluted and thought it meant he's untouchable. It doesn't." Claire felt cold spread through her limbs. "Where is he?" The man's smile sharpened. "Not here. He sent you running, didn't he? Brave little waitress." Claire's vision blurred, rage and fear mixing. "Don't talk about me. Don't talk about him. Just let my son go." The man leaned closer to Liam, voice still gentle. "Hey, buddy, tell your mom to give it back." Liam's breath hitched. Claire moved before she could think. She lunged, not at the man's face, at his wrist. The coin smashed into the side of his hand with a dull crack. He hissed, reflexively pulling back. That was enough. Claire grabbed Liam under the arms and yanked him off the bed, pulling him against her chest. The man recovered fast, too fast. His hand shot out toward Liam. Claire pivoted, driving her shoulder into the doorframe as she turned, shielding Liam with her body. His fingers grazed Liam's coat but didn't hold. Claire ran. She sprinted down the hall, Liam in her arms, his breath hot against her neck. She burst into the living room and dropped to Beth, ripping the tape off with shaking hands. Beth sobbed, gasping. He said they'd call 911, Claire snapped, voice breaking. "Now?" Beth's hands shook as she fumbled for her phone. Claire didn't wait. She carried Liam down the stairs, one hand on the rail, feet slipping on snow that had been tracked in. Behind her, footsteps hit the landing. Fast. Claire's stomach dropped. She hit the door and pushed into the cold. The dark sedan at the curb had its door open now. A second man stood beside it, watching the building like he'd been expecting her to come out carrying exactly what she was carrying. Claire ran the opposite direction, cutting across the yard behind the building, snow up to her shins, Liam clinging to her. "Mom," Liam wheezed. "I've got you," Claire panted. "I've got you." She reached the alley where she'd come in, and her car was still behind the delivery van. She shoved Liam into the back seat, buckled him with trembling hands, and grabbed the inhaler from her coat pocket. 2 puffs. His breathing eased just enough. Claire slammed her door and started the engine. As she pulled out, she saw the dark sedan rolling toward the alley entrance. Blocking. Claire's chest tightened. She threw the car into reverse and backed hard, tires spinning in slush, then cut the wheel and shot out the other side of the lot onto the main road. The sedan lunged after her. Claire drove with both hands locked on the wheel, heart banging, Liam coughing softly behind her. She glanced at the handwritten card the stranger had given her. The address, 1220. She checked the clock. 12:14. 6 minutes. The sedan stayed 2 cars back, patient, like it didn't need to hurry. Claire's phone buzzed again. A new text. From unknown under the bridge. Now. Claire's breath stuttered. Under the bridge was a shortcut, dark and empty. A trap. She ignored it and kept driving toward the address, an industrial strip near the edge of town, old warehouses and dead lots where no one went unless they had to. The sedan closed the distance. Claire turned without signaling, then turned again, trying to lose them through back streets. Still there. A horn blared as she cut too close in front of a pickup. She didn't care. She made the last turn onto a narrow road lined with chain-link fences and snowbanks. The address led to a small, plain building with no sign, just a security light and a door painted gray. No cars outside, no movement. Claire's stomach flipped. Safe didn't look like this. Behind her, the sedan's engine growled closer. Claire hit the brakes, jumped out, yanked Liam's door open. "Run with me," she said, voice shaking. "Hold my hand. Don't let go." Liam nodded, terrified. They ran to the gray door. It was locked. Claire rattled it, panic rising like bile. The sedan stopped behind her with a soft crunch of snow. A car door opened. Claire threw herself against the door again, desperate. Then, click. The gray door unlocked from the inside. It opened just a crack, and a hand shot out, grabbing Claire's wrist and pulling her in hard. Claire stumbled inside, dragging Liam with her. The door slammed shut behind them. Claire spun, breath ragged, and saw the stranger standing in the dim light, eyes locked on Liam first, not her. Liam stared up at him, trembling. The stranger's jaw tightened like he'd been holding something back all day. Then he said quietly to Claire, "They got to him before you did." Claire's lungs forgot how to work. "They got to him before you did," the stranger repeated, quieter this time, like he was trying not to scare Liam with the words. Liam clung to Claire's sleeve, eyes huge, breath thin. "Mom, I'm tired." Claire dropped to her knees in front of him, hands on his cheeks. "Look at me. Breathe slow. In, out." The stranger moved fast, no wasted motion, crossing the small room to a metal cabinet on the wall. He punched in a code without looking at the keypad. The cabinet popped open. Inside, a medical kit, sealed pouches, and a radio. He tossed a packet to Claire. "Nebulizer mask. Put it on him." Claire's hands shook as she tore it open. "I don't have a nebulizer." "We do," he said. He reached under a work table and pulled out a compact device like he'd hidden it there on purpose. He clicked pieces together with practice speed, snapped in a vial, then handed the mask to Claire. "Hold it tight," he said. "He's going to fight it for a second. That's normal." Liam started to cry the second the mask touched his face. "It's okay," Claire whispered. "It's just air, just medicine." The stranger crouched beside them, not crowding, not touching Liam, just close enough to steady the device and keep it running. The room smelled like cold metal and something faintly antiseptic. It wasn't a home. It was a place meant for emergencies. Claire looked up at him, fury and panic mixing. "What did you mean, before I did? Who was with him?" The stranger didn't answer right away. He watched Liam's chest, counting breaths like numbers mattered more than words. Then he said, "Someone found Beth's apartment first. They wanted you to feel trapped." Claire's voice cracked. "They taped her mouth. They threatened my son." "I know," he said, and there was iron under it now. Claire's eyes burned. "Then do something." "I am," he replied. He stood and went to the radio. "Lark, status." A woman's voice came through instantly, tight and controlled. "They're circling. Sedan plus a second vehicle. I've got eyes." The stranger's jaw set. "Did you identify them?" "Not local," Lark said. "Plates are clean. Too clean." Claire's blood went cold. "Lark? That's the woman at the courthouse." The stranger glanced at her. "She works for me." Claire stared. "She tried to take the coin." "She tried to take it from you before they did," he said. Claire wanted to scream, but Liam's breathing was finally easing. The nebulizer hissed softly, steady as a metronome. His shoulders loosened a fraction. Claire swallowed hard. "Who are you?" The stranger looked at Liam again before he answered, like the child had earned the truth first. My name is Daniel Mercer, he said. I'm here because of your husband. Claire's throat tightened. Stop saying that, he's dead. Daniel didn't flinch. I know. Claire pulled the photo from her coat pocket with shaking fingers and held it up. Then explain this. Daniel's eyes flicked to the stamp, classified, then away like it hurt to look at. That photo was never supposed to leave a file, he said. Why? Claire snapped. Why would my husband's funeral be classified? Daniel exhaled slow. Because the story you were given was a version, clean, safe, easier to sell to families. Claire's voice rose, cracking. Sell? My husband died and they sold me a story? Claire, Daniel said, voice low, warning. Not in front of Liam. Claire choked on the anger and forced it down. Fine. Then tell me the version that's real. Daniel didn't answer yet. He stepped closer and lowered his voice anyway. The real version is the reason those men were at Beth's, he said. And the reason deputies showed up at your door. They're not after you because you're important. They're after you because what you have can expose them. Claire stared. Expose who? Daniel's gaze stayed steady. The people who decided your husband couldn't come home. The words hit her like a punch. Her vision blurred. You're saying he was... Her voice failed. He was killed? Daniel didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He said, I'm saying he didn't die by accident, and he didn't die alone. Claire's chest tightened so hard she couldn't breathe for a second. You knew. Daniel's eyes darkened. I suspected, and I didn't push hard enough. Claire's hands shook. Why would you come now, after years? Daniel looked away, then back. Because I got a letter. 2 weeks ago, a letter that should have been destroyed. Claire's pulse hammered. From who? Daniel hesitated just a fraction. From someone inside, someone who's scared. They wrote one line that changed everything. What line? Daniel's voice went quiet. They wrote, the widow doesn't know what her kindness will unlock. Claire's stomach dropped. That's me. Yes, Daniel said. Claire's anger flared again. So I'm bait. Daniel's jaw tightened. No, you're the key they didn't predict. Claire looked down at Liam. His eyes were half closed now, exhausted, breathing easier through the mask. He leaned against her like he trusted her body to be the safest place in the world. Claire whispered, He said they got to him before I did. Daniel nodded once. They did. They called you. They wanted you to answer. They wanted you to panic and come back to the courthouse so they could take the coin and the photo in the open. Claire's voice shook. How did they know my son's name? Daniel's gaze hardened. Because someone has been watching you since last night, and because your phone is compromised. Claire felt sick. You're sure? Daniel nodded. I'm sure enough that I'm not letting you walk back out with that device on. Claire jerked. That's my phone. Daniel cut in, firm. You need your son alive more. The radio hissed. Lark's voice again. They're moving. They think she's inside. 10 seconds. Daniel's entire posture changed. Calm turned into something sharper. He grabbed a small black pouch from the cabinet and tossed it to Claire. Put the coin and the photo in here, now. Claire's fingers fumbled. Why? Because if they get their hands on either, Daniel said, they can rewrite the story again, and this time they'll erase you. Claire shoved the photo in. Then the coin, heavy, cold, final. Daniel zipped the pouch and pulled out a second coin from the cabinet, identical shape, slightly dulled. A decoy, he said, seeing her face. For moments like this. Claire's mouth went dry. You planned this. Daniel didn't deny it. I planned for the worst. A heavy thud hit the exterior door. Another. Liam flinched at the sound, eyes snapping open, panic returning. Claire tightened her arms around him. Hey, look at me. You're safe. Daniel moved to the door, pulled a pistol from under the work table and checked it with one smooth motion. Claire's breath caught. Jesus. Daniel didn't look at her. Stay behind that wall. If anyone comes in, you don't move. Another ooter. The door rattled. A voice from outside, loud, official sounding. Police, open up. Claire's skin went cold. That's... Daniel shook his head slightly. Not local. The voice again. Open the door now. Claire's stomach turned. They're pretending. Daniel's eyes stayed on the door. Yes. The door shuddered. Metal screamed. Claire pulled Liam tighter as the hinge started to give. Daniel spoke into the radio, low and precise. "Lark, go." A pause, then Lark. "Copy." And suddenly, outside, a sharp metallic bang. Not a gunshot, something else. A flash of white light cut under the doorframe like lightning. The men outside cursed. Footsteps scrambled. Daniel didn't wait. He grabbed Claire's arm. "Now! Back exit!" "What back exit?" Claire gasped. Daniel shoved a shelf aside, revealing a narrow door behind it. He yanked it open. Cold air punched in. A dark corridor beyond, lit by a single bare bulb. Claire stumbled forward with Liam, heart hammering. Behind them, the main door finally gave way with a crash. Men shouting, boots on concrete. Daniel pushed Claire into the corridor, then slammed the hidden door behind them. They ran. The corridor led to another door, this one steel, with a keypad. Daniel punched the code. It opened into a tight garage bay. A vehicle waited inside, an older-looking van, plain, the kind nobody notices. "Get in," Daniel barked. Claire climbed in with Liam, sliding across the bench seat. Liam's eyes were wide, but he was breathing. Daniel jumped in the driver's seat, started the engine, and the van rolled forward. As they moved, Claire looked through the back window. The gray door of the building burst open. Two men spilled out into the snow, scanning wildly. One of them raised a phone to his ear. Then he looked straight toward the van like he could feel it leaving. Claire's phone buzzed again in her pocket, like a heartbeat that wasn't hers. Daniel snapped, "Give it to me." Claire handed it over. Daniel didn't smash it. He pulled a small metal pouch, like a thick envelope, from the glove compartment and shoved the phone inside. The buzzing stopped instantly. Claire stared. "What is that?" "Faraday bag," Daniel said. "It stops signals. They can't track it now." Claire's mouth went dry. "So they were tracking me." Daniel's eyes stayed on the road. "Yes." They drove through back roads, away from town, away from lights, into a stretch of trees where the snow looked untouched. Claire's hands trembled around Liam. "Where are we going?" Daniel's voice stayed controlled. "Somewhere they can't lean on uniforms." Claire's throat tightened. "And then what?" Daniel glanced at her for the first time since they'd started moving. His eyes were hard, honest. "Then," he said, "I tell you who your husband really was, and why men in this town still salute me for his death." The van smelled like cold rubber and old coffee, like it had lived too many nights parked behind too many buildings. Claire sat rigid on the bench seat with Liam folded into her side, his cheek pressed to her coat, the nebulizer mask now dangling loose in her lap. Every few minutes she checked his breathing the way you check a door lock, again and again, because one time isn't enough to feel safe. Daniel drove without headlights for a stretch, using the snow's pale glow in memory. When he finally turned them on, it was under a canopy of trees where no one could see from the road. Claire stared at him. "How do you know they won't follow us?" Daniel didn't look away from the road. "Because they didn't see us leave. They guessed. Guessing wastes time." "Time is exactly what they have," Claire snapped. Her voice came out sharper than she meant, but she was past apologizing for fear. "They found Beth. They had Liam. That means they can find anyone." Daniel's jaw tightened. "They found Beth because your phone led them, not because they're everywhere." Claire's throat closed. "My phone did that to my son." Daniel's hand stayed steady on the wheel. "Your phone did what it was forced to do. Someone got access. They're watching patterns, not magic." Claire swallowed, eyes burning. "Then why did you walk into my diner? Why did you make yourself visible?" Daniel's answer came after a beat. "I didn't." Claire blinked. "What?" "I've been in this town for days," he said, in and out, quiet, watching. "Watching me?" Claire's voice rose. "Watching the ceremony," Daniel corrected. "Watching who showed up early, who avoided cameras, who tried too hard to look normal." Claire's hands trembled around Liam. "So you were baiting them?" Daniel's eyes cut to her for a fraction. "No, I was waiting for proof." "And then I paid for your coffee," Claire whispered, the words tasting bitter now. "And suddenly everything moves." Daniel didn't deny it. "Yes." Claire stared out the window at black trees and snowbanks. "So my kindness was your proof." Daniel's voice went lower. "Your kindness was their mistake." The road opened, and ahead, a single light glowed between the trees, yellow, weak, like a porch bulb fighting the winter. Daniel turned down a narrow drive and stopped beside a small cabin set back from the road. No neighbors, No sound. A place that didn't exist unless you knew to look. He killed the engine. Silence rushed in. Liam stirred. "Mom, where are we?" Claire kissed his hair. "Just somewhere warm for a minute." Daniel got out first, scanning the tree line, then opened the side door for them. Cold slapped Claire's face as she climbed out with Liam. Her legs felt like rubber. Inside the cabin it was plain. A couch, a small table, a space heater, bottled water. Nothing personal. Nothing you'd miss if you had to leave in 30 seconds. Daniel moved like he'd been here before. He checked the locks, pulled the curtains, then crouched beside Liam. "Hey," he said gently. "You doing okay, champ?" Liam's eyes tracked him, wary. "Are you a police?" Daniel's mouth tightened, almost a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "No." Liam looked at Claire. "Who is he?" Claire swallowed. "Someone who knew your dad." Liam's face went still, like the name opened a door in his head he didn't like opening. He didn't remember much of his father, only a voice in old videos, a laugh, a uniform hanging in a closet Claire had finally packed away because it hurt too much. "My dad was a soldier," Liam said softly. Daniel nodded once. "He was." Claire sat Liam on the couch and wrapped a blanket around him, hands still shaking. "Okay," she said, turning to Daniel. "Talk, now." Daniel didn't sit. He stood near the table like he didn't allow himself comfort. "You need to understand what's happening," he said, "but you also need to understand what's not happening." Claire's laugh came out dry. "My friend got tied up. My son got threatened. Men pretended to be police. That's what's happening." Daniel nodded. "And none of that is official." "Then who are they?" Claire demanded. "Say it." Daniel hesitated, choosing words that wouldn't make the cabin feel smaller. "A group," he said. "Inside contractors, not uniform, not elected. They move like security. They act like law enforcement when it suits them." Claire's chest tightened. "So they can just do this?" "They can," Daniel said, "until someone with authority stops them." Claire's eyes flashed. "And that's you?" Daniel didn't answer that like it was a compliment. "It's my responsibility." Claire's throat burned. "Because you feel guilty." Daniel's face didn't change. "Because your husband is the reason I'm still alive." Claire froze. Daniel held her gaze. "Your husband saved my life." More than once. The room felt like it tipped sideways. Claire gripped the back of a chair to keep herself upright. "He was infantry," she said, forcing the words out. "That's what they told me. They told me he died in a vehicle accident." Daniel's eyes hardened. "He wasn't infantry." Claire's breath hitched. "What?" "He was attached," Daniel said, voice controlled, "to a unit that doesn't exist on paper." Claire shook her head hard. "No, that's not. He wouldn't." "You didn't know," Daniel said, not cruel, just honest. "Most spouses don't. That was part of it." Claire's vision blurred. "Then who was he really?" Daniel looked at Liam, asleep now, his face slack with exhaustion. Then he lowered his voice. "He was a specialist," Daniel said, "a rescuer, a fixer, the person you call when something's gone wrong and you need it to stop being wrong." Claire's hands went cold. "And he died doing that." Daniel didn't soften it. "Yes." Claire pressed her fingers to her mouth, trying to keep from making a sound that would wake Liam. "So why are they here now? Why do they care about me?" Daniel stepped closer, keeping his voice low. "Because the story they gave you, accident, hero, closure, protected them." "Protected them from what?" Claire whispered. Daniel's jaw tightened. "From accountability, from questions, from names." Claire shook her head. "I didn't ask questions." "They didn't trust that you wouldn't," Daniel said. "Not forever." Claire's eyes burned. "And now because I paid your coffee, they think I will." Daniel nodded once. "Now they think you're connected to me. And if you're connected to me, you're a risk." Claire's body went heavy with rage. "So I'm collateral." Daniel's eyes didn't blink. "Yes." The word landed clean and brutal. Claire swallowed down a sob that wanted to become a scream. "Then fix it," she said. "Fix my life. Fix Liam's fear. Fix Beth's trauma. Fix my job, my rent. Fix all of it since you're so responsible." Daniel didn't flinch at the accusation. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small folder. He set it on the table, not offering it yet. I already started. Claire stared at the folder like it could bite. What is that? Actions, Daniel said. Claire's laugh was sharp. What kind of actions? Money? Daniel shook his head once. Not just money. He opened the folder and slid out a printed page. Claire leaned in and felt her stomach drop. A notice, typed, official-looking, addressed to her landlord. It referenced housing code violations, dates, inspection threats, penalties, legal language she didn't understand but knew landlords feared. Claire looked up, stunned. What is this? A fire inspection request, Daniel said, and a reminder that evictions don't move fast when paperwork gets complicated. Claire's hands shook. You contacted my landlord? I contacted the system around him, Daniel corrected. A system he respects. Claire swallowed hard. That's not fixing. That's pressure. Daniel's eyes stayed steady. Pressure is how people like him listen. Claire's mind flashed to Mr. Harlan's voice. Christmas doesn't pay mortgages. The man didn't care about her, only consequences. Daniel slid another page across. A payroll document from Maples, Darren's name in the header, a line item, labor law compliance review, wage theft flagged, a warning about tip pooling. Claire's mouth went dry. How did you? Daniel didn't answer. He slid a third page across, a report with Beth's name, a case number, a note. Call from anonymous witness, suspect description provided. Claire stared at it, eyes wide. You called the police, Daniel nodded once. Real police, Claire's throat tightened. And the men who came to my door? Daniel's voice went flat. Not them. Claire looked at the papers like they were proof she hadn't dreamed the last 24 hours. So you're dismantling my problems? Daniel's jaw tightened. I'm removing leverage, Claire's voice cracked. At what cost? Daniel didn't answer immediately. He reached into the folder again and pulled out something smaller. A photograph. Claire's breath caught as soon as she saw it. A screenshot from a security camera, grainy but clear enough. Beth's building hallway. Liam by the door, Beth behind him, and a man crouched with a hand on Liam's shoulder. The same man from Liam's room. Claire's stomach turned. That's him, Daniel nodded once. Yes. Claire's fingers clenched into fists. Who is he? Daniel's eyes went cold. A courier, a collector, the kind of man they send when they want fear, not paperwork. Claire swallowed hard. And you know his name? Daniel hesitated. Not yet. Claire's anger snapped. You mean you can print legal threats to my landlord, but you can't name the guy who touched my son? Daniel's voice dropped, sharp now. I can name him. I can't say it out loud in a cabin with a child asleep until I know the walls aren't listening. Claire felt her skin prickle. You think they bugged this place? Daniel didn't answer. He walked to a corner, opened a small metal box she hadn't noticed, and pulled out a handheld device. He clicked it on. It made a soft ticking sound. He swept it slowly around the room. Claire watched, heart pounding. The device ticked faster near the window. Daniel's expression tightened. He moved closer, scanned again. Tick, tick, tick. Then he reached behind the curtain and pulled out a tiny black puck stuck to the window frame. Claire's blood went ice cold. Daniel held it up. They did. Claire's voice came out as a whisper. How long has that been there? Daniel looked at the adhesive. Fresh. Claire's knees went weak. They followed us. They didn't need to, Daniel said. They tracked the cabin because it's on a list of places I use. Claire stared at him, horrified. So this place was never safe. Daniel's eyes held hers. It was safe enough to get you here, safe enough to get your son breathing, safe enough to show you the truth in writing. Claire's voice shook. And now? Daniel didn't answer with reassurance. He answered with action. He crushed the puck in his hand like it was nothing, then tossed it into a metal can by the heater. He went back to the folder and pulled out the decoy coin. Claire's throat tightened. What are you doing? Daniel's voice stayed calm, but his body had already shifted into something ready. I'm going to give them something. Claire stared. You're going to trade. Daniel shook his head. I'm going to bait. Claire's pulse spiked. With my life? With their impatience, Daniel said. He reached into his coat and pulled out his own phone, different from hers, older, thick case, and typed fast. Claire watched his fingers move like he'd done this before. What are you doing? she demanded. Daniel didn't look up. I'm telling them I'm ready to talk. Claire's stomach dropped. You're calling them. I'm calling the one behind them, Daniel said, the one who thinks he's untouchable. Claire's voice cracked. You know who that is. Daniel's jaw tightened. Yes? Claire stepped closer, shaking. Then tell me. Tell me who decided my husband couldn't come home. Daniel looked at Liam asleep on the couch, then back at Claire. His voice went quiet. If I say the name and they hear it, they won't take the coin. They'll take your son. Claire's chest tightened so hard it hurt. Then what do we do? Daniel held up the decoy coin between two fingers. We make them think they're winning. Claire stared, sick. And if they don't believe you? Daniel's eyes sharpened. Then we show them something they can't ignore. He reached into the folder again and pulled out one final sheet. A letter, typed, stamped with an official seal Claire recognized from nowhere, but still felt in her bones. Daniel slid it across the table. Claire read the first line and felt her entire body go numb. Notice of benefits reclassification, line of duty, special circumstances. Her breath stopped. This is Liam's father. Daniel nodded. They kept things from you. They kept support from you. They kept the real designation from ever reaching your mailbox. Claire's voice broke. So we were struggling for no reason. For a reason, Daniel corrected, harsh now. To keep you quiet. Claire's hands trembled over the paper like it might disappear. Is this real? Daniel's eyes held hers. It will be, Claire whispered. You can make it real. Daniel didn't smile. I can force it through. Claire's throat tightened. Then do it. Do it now. Daniel's voice went colder. It's already in motion. Claire's eyes filled. And Darren? Daniel's mouth tightened. Darren is about to learn what happens when he punishes the wrong person. Claire stared at him, stunned by the certainty. A soft buzz filled the room. Not her phone, still in the Faraday bag. Daniel's phone. He checked the screen once. His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes did, like a door closing. They're here, he said. Claire's blood went cold. Outside? Daniel nodded. Claire looked at Liam, asleep, peaceful for the first time in a day. We have to leave. Daniel didn't move. Not yet. Claire's voice rose. Daniel, they put hands on my son. I know, Daniel cut in, quiet but hard. And that's why we're finishing this tonight. Claire shook her head, tears hot. Tonight? No, Daniel raised a finger, a small command for silence. Through the cabin's thin walls, Claire heard it. A car door closing, slow footsteps in snow. Then a knock, soft, polite, like a neighbor asking for sugar. Daniel walked to the door without hurrying. Claire grabbed the pouch with the real coin and photo and pressed it to her chest like armor. Another knock. Then a voice, calm and close. Sir, it said, we know you're in there. Claire's stomach dropped. Not a stranger's voice, not a deputy's. It was the man from Liam's room. Daniel leaned toward the door, voice flat. You're far from home. The man outside chuckled softly. And you're out of time. Daniel's hand tightened on the doorknob. What do you want? A beat, then the man said, almost gently. The truth you're carrying, and the woman you're hiding. Claire's breath stopped. Daniel didn't open the door. He looked back at Claire once, and for the first time since Maples, he let her see it, real anger, controlled and lethal. They found your name, he whispered. Then the cabin's power cut out. The heater died. The light snapped off. The room plunged into darkness so complete, Claire couldn't even see Liam's shape on the couch. And in the black, Claire heard the soft, metallic click of something being chambered right outside the door. Darkness swallowed the cabin so fast, it felt like someone had thrown a blanket over Claire's head. The heater's fan wound down with a dying whine. The ticking from Daniel's scanner stopped. Even the tiny sounds, Liam's breathing, Claire's own pulse, suddenly felt loud enough to betray them. Claire's fingers tightened around the pouch until the zipper bit her skin. Liam, she whispered, moving by memory toward the couch. Baby, don't move. Stay still. A small whimper. Then silence. She could feel him there, a warm shape under the blanket. Daniel's voice came low, close to her ear. Don't speak above a whisper. Claire swallowed. They cut the power. They didn't, Daniel murmured. They killed it from outside. That's a message. The voice outside the door came again, unhurried, confident. "Sir, let's not scare the kid." Claire's stomach turned. The man from Liam's room sounded like he was standing on the porch, hands in his pockets, enjoying himself. Daniel didn't answer. There was a soft scrape in the snow, like someone shifting their stance. Then, a slow, deliberate click, metal on metal, chambering. Claire froze so hard her muscles ached. Daniel's breathing didn't change. His calm was almost worse than panic. It meant he'd already done the math. "Mercer," the man outside said, voice almost friendly. "You know me. You know this ends the same way it always ends. You hand it over, you walk away. You don't, and we start breaking pieces." Claire's throat tightened. Breaking pieces meant Liam, Beth, her. Daniel finally spoke, still low. "You put hands on a child," a soft laugh. "Don't make it emotional." Claire heard another sound now, faint from the side of the cabin. Footsteps, not just one person, two, maybe three. They were spacing out, surrounding. Daniel leaned close to Claire's ear again. "They're not here to negotiate," Claire whispered, barely able to form words. "Then why talk?" "To keep me at the door," Daniel said, "while someone else finds another way in." As if on cue, a quiet tap came from somewhere near the back window. Gentle. Testing. Claire's blood went ice cold. Daniel moved without a sound, gliding across the room in the dark. Claire couldn't see him, only felt the air shift. His voice returned, a whisper. "Where's the pouch?" Claire held it up blindly. His hand found it, squeezed once, confirmation, then let go. He pressed something into Claire's palm, a small metal object, cold, flat. "What is—" Claire started. Daniel's lips were almost against her ear. "Key to the back hatch. If I say go, you take Liam and you run to the van. You do not wait." Claire's throat clenched. "And you?" No answer. Outside, the man's voice sharpened just slightly. "You've got 1 minute," he called. "Then I come in." Claire wanted to scream. Instead, she crawled to Liam, feeling for his small hand under the blanket, squeezing it. Liam squeezed back, weak. "Mom," he whispered. "I'm here," she breathed. "No talking. Just hold my hand." A soft tap again at the back window. Then a different sound, thin and high. A blade against glass. Claire's breath stopped. Daniel's whisper cut through. "If they break that window, cover Liam's face." Claire swallowed hard, nodding though he couldn't see. The man outside sighed like he was bored. "Mercer, you can't protect her. You couldn't protect the last family." Claire's body went rigid. The last family. Daniel didn't respond, but Claire felt the temperature in the room drop, like his anger had a physical weight. The blade at the window scraped again. A tiny crack. Claire threw her body over Liam, shielding him with her coat, covering his face with her hand. The crack spread with a faint spiderweb sound. Daniel moved, fast now, silent until the last second. A sharp thud near the window. A muffled grunt. Then glass shattered outward, not in. A man cursed outside, stumbling back into snow. Daniel's voice, barely audible. "Windows covered." Claire's mind struggled to catch up. He'd hit someone through the glass before they could cut in. Outside the front door, the man laughed. Real laughter now. "There he is," he called. "Still the hero." Then, bang, not a gunshot. A hard ooter against the door near the lock. The cabin door shuddered. Another ooter. The deadbolt groaned. Daniel hissed to Claire, "Get Liam, now." Claire's hands shook as she pulled Liam up from the couch, wrapping the blanket around him like armor. Liam's eyes were wide in the darkness. "Mom." "Shh," Claire whispered. "We're going to the van. Hold on to me." She fumbled for the back hatch, finding it by memory. Cold metal, a latch, a seal. The key Daniel had given her found the slot with a desperate scrape. She twisted. Click. The hatch opened, letting in a thin slice of snowlight. It wasn't bright, but it was enough to see shapes. The tree line beyond. The van parked low behind the cabin. Claire hauled Liam toward it, half carrying him through the hatch. Behind them, the front door boomed again. The lock screamed. And over it all, the man outside called, louder now. "Don't run, Claire! We can do this politely!" Claire's blood turned to ice. He knew where she was going. She didn't look back. She ran, stumbling through snow with Liam pressed to her chest, his breath hot and uneven. Halfway to the van, headlights snapped on behind the trees, blinding. A vehicle had crept up the drive without power, without lights. Now, it lit up the whole clearing like a stage. Claire froze for half a heartbeat, caught in that glare. A silhouette stepped into the beam, the man from Liam's room. He raised a hand, not waving, aiming. Claire lunged sideways, falling into snow, rolling with Liam to keep his head from hitting. A loud crack split the night. This time it was a gunshot. The bullet smacked into the side of the van with a metallic ping. Liam screamed. Claire clamped a hand over his mouth, tears freezing on her cheeks. Another shot, another ping. They were shooting to hurt her, not kill her, yet. Claire crawled behind a snowbank, dragging Liam with her, chest burning. She fumbled in her pocket for the van keys Daniel had left in the ignition earlier, except she didn't have them. The van door was locked. Claire's mind went white with panic. From the cabin, a new sound. Daniel's voice, loud now, a command cutting through the night. "Stop!" Claire peeked over the snowbank. Daniel stood at the cabin's front door in the darkness, his silhouette framed by broken light from inside, one hand raised. Not surrender, a signal. The man with the gun turned toward him, smiling even in the glare. "Finally," he called. "Now we can talk." Daniel's voice carried, cold and controlled. "Let the woman and child leave." The man laughed softly. "No." Daniel's hand dropped slightly. "Then you don't get what you came for." The man tilted his head. "We already do. She's right there." Claire's stomach dropped. He could see her behind the snowbank. The headlights made her invisible to herself, but not to him. Daniel took one step down the porch. "If you touch her." "If I touch her what?" the man cut in. "You'll do what you did last time? You'll watch another family get folded into a flag?" Claire's blood ran cold. Daniel didn't move. But Claire saw it. His posture tightened like he'd been hit. The man's voice stayed smooth. "Hand over the coin and the photo. Walk back inside. No one gets hurt." Claire's hands tightened around the pouch. She realized, sickly, that the pouch was the only reason they weren't already dragging her up the driveway. Daniel glanced, just briefly, toward Claire, then back to the man. "Fine," Daniel said. Claire's head snapped up. "No." Daniel reached into his coat slowly and pulled out the decoy coin. It flashed dull in the headlights. The man's smile widened. "Smart." Daniel held it up between two fingers. "You want this? You come get it." The man's eyes narrowed. "Throw it." Daniel's voice stayed flat. "No. You want it clean? You take it clean." For a second, the clearing held its breath. Then the man nodded to someone unseen. A second silhouette moved along the trees, flanking toward Daniel. Daniel didn't look at them. His eyes stayed on the man with the gun. The man stepped closer, boots crunching snow, gun lowered but still in hand. "Good," he murmured. "Now?" A sudden burst of light exploded from the tree line behind the attackers, bright, strobing, violent. Not headlights, emergency lights. A siren chirped once, then cut. The attackers froze for a fraction. Daniel's voice hit like a hammer. "Now, Claire!" Claire surged up, half carrying Liam, sprinting toward the van as the emergency lights washed the clearing red and blue. A shout from the man with the gun. "Move!" Footsteps tore through snow. Claire reached the van and yanked the handle again, unlocked. Someone had popped it remotely or from inside. Claire threw the door open, shoved Liam in, climbed in after him, slamming it shut. She scrambled into the front, hands shaking, found the keys, already in the ignition. She turned them. The engine roared to life. Behind her, Daniel was still out there. In the rearview mirror, she saw him toss the decoy coin into the snow-like bait. Then he raised his hands slowly as if surrendering. Claire's breath caught, because the man with the gun smiled, like surrender was exactly what he'd wanted. Claire drove. She didn't know where the emergency lights were coming from. She didn't know who was really on her side. She only knew that Liam was alive in the back seat, sobbing quietly into his blanket. Her phone, sealed in the Faraday bag, couldn't help her. And the last thing she saw, as she tore down the drive, was Daniel Mercer standing in the headlights with his hands up, while the man from Liam's room stepped in close to him and whispered something Claire couldn't hear. Then, Daniel dropped to one knee in the snow, like someone had just hit him hard. Claire's stomach lurched. She pressed the gas harder, tears blinding her. And as the cabin disappeared behind the trees, Liam's voice came from the back seat, small and shaky. "Mom, is that man going to die because of us?" Claire didn't answer Liam's question right away. because if she opened her mouth, something in her chest might break loud enough to crash the van. She drove until the emergency lights faded behind the trees, and the only thing left was the narrow road ahead, snow hissing under tires, Liam's small sobs in the back seat, and the heavy pouch pressed against her ribs like a secret that could get them both killed. "Mom?" Liam tried again, quieter. Is he hurt?" Claire swallowed hard. "I don't know," she whispered, "but he told me to go, so we go." She turned onto a county road, then another, away from town. Daniel had never said where to drive if the cabin failed. He'd just said, "Run." The van's dashboard clock blinked 12:58 like time was mocking her. Claire's mind kept replaying the last image. Daniel on one knee, the man bending close, whispering something, like he'd been waiting years to say it. Claire's hands tightened on the wheel. "Breathe," she told herself. "Just breathe." Liam coughed, sharp and dry. Claire's whole body flinched. "You okay back there?" "I'm okay," Liam lied, voice small. Claire forced the van onto the shoulder behind a line of bare trees, cut the headlights, and turned around in her seat to face him. "Hey," she said, gentler. "Mask again. 2 minutes." Liam nodded. His cheeks were wet, his eyes red. He looked older than 7 in that moment. Claire assembled the nebulizer with shaking hands. The kit was still in the van, like Daniel had planned for her to be alone with it. She fitted the mask, held it steady while the hiss filled the cabin. Liam's shoulders loosened as the medicine did its work. Claire watched him until her heartbeat slowed enough to think. Then she reached into the pocket of her coat, pulled out the Faraday bag with her phone still sealed inside, and stared at it like it was a live insect. Daniel had cut her off from the world, but he'd also been right. Every time she answered, they moved closer to her son. Claire set the bag back down and opened the pouch instead. The coin was there. The photo was there. She pulled the photo out first, because it hurt less than the truth it promised. Liam's father in a frame, a folded flag, her face not visible in the shot, but she remembered that day like a scar that itched in cold weather. She flipped the photo over. Under the classified stamp, someone had handwritten a date and 2 initials. A M. Claire's throat tightened. Those were her husband's initials, and beneath them, a phrase, almost like a last joke between soldiers. "If they tell her accident, don't believe it." Claire's vision blurred so fast she had to wipe her cheek with her sleeve. Liam's eyes opened under the mask, watching her. "What is that?" he asked, voice muffled. Claire forced her voice steady. "Just something from Daddy." Liam's brows pulled together. "Daddy didn't like lying." Claire's chest cracked. "No," she whispered. "He didn't." The nebulizer hissed on. Claire sat back in the driver's seat and stared at the road through the windshield. Empty, black snow falling like ash. She needed a plan. A real one. Not running until gas ran out. Then she remembered the only person who had been real with her from the beginning. Beth. Claire's stomach turned. Beth was tied up, mouth taped, terrified, but Beth was alive. If Beth had called the police, real police, there might be a report already, a trace. But calling Beth from her phone could get Beth killed. Claire needed a phone that wasn't hers. She stared at the dark stretch of road, then at a faint glow ahead. A 24-hour gas station, the kind truckers use, the kind with cameras, coffee, and strangers who don't know your name. Claire started the van and drove. At the station, she parked under the brightest light. She didn't take the pouch inside. She hid it under the seat, then wrapped Liam tighter and walked him in like he was just a tired kid on Christmas night. Inside smelled like fried food and bleach. A bored cashier glanced up. Claire scanned the room. 2 truckers, 1 tired couple, no dark coats. A rack of prepaid phones hung behind the counter. Claire's wallet felt like a joke in her pocket. She bought the cheapest burner and a small card. Her hands shook so hard she dropped the coins once. The cashier didn't care. Claire activated it in the bathroom, locked herself in a stall with Liam sitting on the closed lid, watching her with wide eyes. "Mom, are we hiding?" Claire looked at him and hated herself for the answer. "Yes, baby, just for a little." She dialed Beth's number from memory. It rang once, twice. Beth answered on the 3rd ring, voice raw and shaking. "Claire?" Claire's throat tightened. "Beth, are you okay?" A choked sound. Claire, he had a gun." He kept smiling. I thought I'm sorry, Claire whispered. I'm so sorry. Beth sucked in a breath, trying to get control. Where are you? Where's Liam? We're alive, Claire said. We're in a van. We had to run. Beth's voice cracked. Daniel? He came? Claire froze. You know his name. Beth went quiet for half a second. Claire, listen to me. After you left, the real cops came. Not like the ones at your door. Real cops. They took my statement. Claire's pulse spiked. Did they believe you? They looked scared, Beth whispered, like they didn't want to. Claire's stomach dropped. Beth? Claire, Beth cut in, urgent now. A man came after, not police, suit. He tried to tell me it was a misunderstanding and I should keep quiet. I told him to go to hell. Claire's breath hitched. What did he look like? Beth swallowed audibly. Late 50s, gray in his hair. Not the guy who grabbed Liam. Another one, calm, like he owned the room. Claire's mind flashed to Daniel. Gray hair, calm, wait. But Beth didn't mean Daniel. Beth meant someone else. Beth continued, voice trembling. Before he left, he said something, like a warning. Claire gripped the burner phone. What did he say? Beth's voice dropped to a whisper. He said, Mercer can't protect you. Mercer couldn't protect Andrew. Andrew. Claire's stomach turned. That was her husband's name. Claire felt the stall walls close in. Beth, who is doing this? Beth swallowed. I don't know. But Claire, someone is watching me right now. Claire's heart slammed. What? Beth's voice shook harder. I'm in my apartment. The cops left, and I keep hearing a car door outside. The same car, idling. I'm scared. Claire's blood went ice cold. Beth, lock your door. Turn on every light. Don't look out the window. I did, Beth whispered. Claire, what do I do? Claire's mind raced. If Beth stayed, she was bait again. Claire forced herself to speak like a command. Beth, take your keys and your coat. Go to Mrs. Adler downstairs, right now. The old lady who never sleeps. Go, don't argue. Put her on the phone if you can. Beth breathed fast. Okay. Okay. A rustle. Footsteps. Beth moving. Claire looked at Liam. He was watching her like he could hear danger between every word. Beth whispered again, Claire, if Daniel's involved, you have to understand something. Claire's throat tightened. What? Beth swallowed. My brother served. He told me about coins like that. They're not souvenirs. They're proof. A way to open doors, but also a way to mark you. Claire's hands shook. So I'm marked. Beth's voice cracked. Claire, he didn't leave it by accident. Claire's mind flashed back to Daniel saying he didn't mean to. Beth continued, almost pleading. The man who grabbed Liam kept saying the same thing over and over, like he wanted it to stick. Claire's pulse hammered. What did he say? Beth's voice came out thin. He said, Tell Mercer the salute is over. Claire's breath stopped. The salute is over. That was what this was about. Not coffee, not kindness, a message. Claire gripped the burner so hard her fingers hurt. Beth, Daniel's in danger, Beth whispered. Claire, I think Daniel has been in danger for a long time. A loud, sharp knock sounded through Beth's phone, like someone hitting her door. Beth gasped. Oh my God! Claire's stomach dropped. Beth, are you with Mrs. Adler? Beth's breathing went frantic. I'm in the hall. Another knock, louder. Beth whispered, Claire, if they take me... Don't say that, Claire snapped, voice breaking. Beth, keep moving. Go downstairs, now. Beth's footsteps pounded on wood stairs, then a male voice in the background, close, calm. Bethany. Beth screamed and the call cut. Claire stared at the dead screen, her entire body going cold. Liam's small voice trembled. Mom, what happened? Claire couldn't answer. She walked out of the stall like her legs weren't hers, paid no attention to the mirror, to her face, to the woman she didn't recognize anymore. Back in the van, she slammed the doors, locked them, and sat there shaking while Liam cried quietly in the back. And then, through the windshield, she saw it. Across the lot, parked in the shadows beyond the pumps, a dark sedan, engine idling, two silhouettes inside. Claire's breath stopped. Her burner phone buzzed. One text, You left Mercer to bleed. Bring us the coin or we take the rest. Claire looked down at the message until the letters blurred. Then she looked at Liam. And she realized the worst part wasn't that Daniel might be dead. It was that whoever was doing this now knew exactly where she was. Claire didn't move. Not at first. She stared at the sedan across the lot like if she stared long enough, it would turn into a normal car with normal people inside, like the silhouettes would get out holding hot dogs and lottery tickets and nothing else. They didn't. The van's interior felt suddenly too small for air. Liam sniffled in the back, trying to be quiet like being quiet could save them. Claire forced her hands to unclench. She slid the van into reverse without turning on the headlights and eased backward, using the delivery truck as cover. The sedan's headlights stayed off. Patient. Sure. They wanted her to feel watched. She backed out, turned wide, and rolled onto the county road. Only then did the sedan's lights blink on behind her. Not close, not far. 2 car lengths that said, "We're not in a hurry. You are." Claire's mind sprinted. The burner phone had already been burned. Her normal phone was useless in a metal pouch. Daniel was gone. Beth's call had cut with a man saying her name like he owned it. She had one thing they wanted, and one thing she couldn't hand over. Claire glanced at Liam in the mirror. He was staring down at his bear, wiping his nose with his sleeve, trying to pretend he wasn't terrified. "Hey," Claire said, forcing her voice into something steady. "You okay?" Liam nodded too fast. "Yeah." "Listen," Claire whispered, "we're going to drive somewhere safe, and you're going to do exactly what I say, okay?" Liam's eyes lifted to hers in the mirror. "Are they bad guys?" Claire swallowed. "Yes." Liam's mouth trembled. "Are you going to fight them?" Claire's throat tightened. "I'm going to be smart." She drove past a dark turnoff marked with a faded sign. County yard, no trespassing, a chain-link fence, a gate, cameras, a place with lights and security. She took the turn hard. The sedan followed. Claire's pulse hammered. She rolled up to the gate like she belonged there and hit the horn twice. Long. Nothing. She looked at the keypad. No code. The sedan slowed behind her. Claire hit the horn again, longer, then flashed her high beams at the security camera like it might wake up a night guard. The sedan stopped. Its engine idled. No one got out. They didn't need to. Claire's hands trembled on the wheel. She had just trapped herself at a closed gate with them behind her. She backed up slowly, heart in her throat, then turned around in the narrow space and drove back out to the main road. The sedan followed again, smooth as a shadow. Liam's voice quivered. "Mom," Claire forced calm, "breathe like we practiced." Liam tried. The sedan didn't close. It didn't try to pass. It just waited for her to get tired. Then Claire saw it ahead, a sign glowing in the distance. Cedar Hollow Regional Medical Center. Emergency. A hospital meant cameras, people, security, witnesses. Claire turned toward it. The sedan's distance tightened by 1 car length. Claire's burner buzzed. No text this time. A call. Unknown. Claire didn't answer. It rang again. She ignored it. 3rd ring. She answered, voice like ice. "What?" The same calm voice. "You're making a scene." Claire's grip whitened. "You kidnapped my child in a bedroom." A soft chuckle. "And he's still breathing, isn't he? You want that to stay true? You're going to pull over when I tell you." Claire's blood went cold. "I'm going to a hospital." "You're going to a place with cameras," the voice said. "And you're going to find out how fast cameras stop helping when the right people ask." Claire swallowed. "What do you want?" "The coin," the voice said. "And the photo. Not later. Now." Claire's eyes flicked to Liam in the mirror. He was watching her mouth, trying to read fear. She lowered her voice. "You get those. You leave my friend alone. You leave my son alone." The voice sighed as if she was bargaining over a used car. "Bring them. You'll get Beth back." Claire's stomach twisted. "You have Beth." A pause that was answer enough. Claire's throat tightened. "Where?" The voice gave a location like it was nothing. "You know the old mill road? The service bridge. Under the bridge, the same trap." Claire's hands shook. "You told me that earlier." "I told you to make you choose," the voice replied. "Now I'm telling you because your choices are running out." Claire's breath came shallow. "If I go there and you hurt them." "You don't get to threaten me," the voice said, suddenly colder. "You get to obey." The call ended. Claire stared at the road. The hospital sign was getting closer. But if Beth was alive, she was being held because of Claire. If Claire ran to the hospital, they might disappear with Beth, or punish her, or punish Liam. Daniel's words echoed. Leverage. Claire turned the wheel, hard, away from the hospital. Liam's head snapped up. Mom, where are we going? Claire forced her voice steady, soft. We're going to get Aunt Beth back. Liam's eyes filled. But they're scary. I know, Claire whispered. You stay behind me, always. She drove toward the service bridge, heart hammering so hard it hurt. The sedan stayed behind, guiding her like a leash. The road narrowed into a dead industrial stretch, broken streetlights, chain link, snow piled into dirty mounds. The bridge appeared ahead like a black mouth over frozen water. No traffic, no witnesses. Claire slowed. Her burner buzzed again. One text, short, park, walk in alone, bring the pouch. Claire pulled under the bridge where the concrete blocked moonlight and the van's headlights cast long shadows across graffiti and ice. She parked, locked the doors. Her hands shook so badly she could barely unbuckle. Liam leaned forward from the back. Don't leave me. Claire turned, climbed into the back seat and grabbed his face gently. Listen, she whispered, you are not leaving this van. You lock the doors. You don't open them for anyone, not even if they say my name. Liam's tears spilled. But Claire kissed his forehead, lingering one extra second like she needed to memorize his warmth. If something happens, you push this button. She pointed to the horn. And you scream. Okay? Liam nodded, shaking. Claire slid the pouch under her coat, heavy against her ribs. Then she stepped out into the cold. Under the bridge, footsteps echoed in a way that made every movement sound like an announcement. A figure emerged from the darkness, hands visible, calm posture, the man from Liam's room. He walked closer until Claire could see his face clearly in the van's headlights. Clean, smiling, wrong. Claire, he said softly, like greeting an old friend. You came? Claire's voice shook but didn't break. Where's Beth? He smiled wider. Safe. Show me. He tilted his head toward the dark. First, the pouch. Claire kept her hands at her sides. You show me Beth first. He sighed like she was exhausting. You don't have the leverage you think you have. Claire's eyes flashed. I have the only thing you've been chasing for 2 days. The man's smile didn't move. And I have your son. He nodded slightly toward the van. You think I can't take him again? Claire's blood turned to ice. She glanced back. Liam's face was pressed to the window, pale and terrified. The man's eyes followed her glance and his smile sharpened. See? He murmured. Leverage. Claire's nails dug into her palm. If you touch him again, he cut her off, voice suddenly colder. Hand it over. Claire didn't move. The man exhaled, then raised his hand slightly, 2 fingers extended, not a peace sign, a signal. From behind the concrete pillar to Claire's left, another silhouette stepped out, then another to her right. 3 men total now, forming a half circle, blocking her path back to the van. Claire's breath stuttered. Where is Beth? The man's voice stayed calm. You're about to see her. He snapped his fingers once. A door slammed somewhere in the dark under the bridge, metal on metal. A muffled sound followed, a whimper. Then Beth's voice, thin, terrified. Claire? Claire's entire body went rigid. Beth was close, somewhere behind the pillars. The man leaned in, soft as poison. Give me the pouch, and I give you your friend. Then we all go home. Claire's hands trembled. She unzipped her coat slightly, fingers touching the pouch. Then she stopped, because something else moved in the darkness above them. A shadow on the bridge deck. A figure standing at the railing, watching. Not one of the 3 men below. Different posture. Stillness like authority. Claire's heart jumped. The man noticed her gaze and smiled like he'd been waiting for it. Oh, he said, almost pleased. Good. He came. Claire's mouth went dry. Daniel. The man shook his head slowly. Not Daniel. Then the figure above spoke, voice carried down through cold air and concrete. Enough. The single word hit the space like a gavel. The 3 men below froze for a fraction. Claire's breath caught, because she recognized the voice from nowhere she could explain, only that it sounded like the kind of voice that makes rooms stand up. The man in front of her smiled without warmth. Sir, he called upward, respectful in tone only. She has it. Claire looked up, shaking. The figure stepped forward into a sliver of light, late 50s, gray in his hair, a calm face that looked like it had never needed permission. Claire's blood ran cold as the man above rested his hands on the railing and looked down at her like she was a file he'd finally opened. Then he said, quiet, but clear. "Claire Carson, thank you for the coffee." And Claire understood exactly who had been pulling every string. Claire's throat closed so hard she could barely breathe. Up on the bridge, the gray-haired man looked down like he'd been waiting for this exact angle. The headlights, the shadows, the mother standing between her child and men with guns. His gaze slid past Claire toward the van. "Your boy," he said, voice calm, almost gentle. "He's scared." Claire's hands clenched. "Don't talk about my son." The man's mouth barely moved. "That's fair." Below him, the man from Liam's room stood like a loyal dog, eyes up, waiting for approval. The two others held their positions, blocking Claire's path back. Claire forced her voice out through the tightness. "Where's Daniel?" The gray-haired man's eyes didn't blink. "Mercer is alive." Claire's knees almost gave. Relief hit so hard it hurt. Then anger rushed in behind it. "You hurt him," she said. "I corrected him," the man replied. "He forgot the chain of command." Claire stared up, shaking. "Who are you?" The man's expression didn't change. "I'm the one they salute." The words sounded wrong coming from his mouth, like he was borrowing them, like he liked them. Claire's pulse hammered. "You're the one who was short on coffee." A faint nod. "I was." "So you did leave the coin," Claire snapped, "on purpose." The man's eyes narrowed slightly, almost amused at being challenged. "I left a door. You walked through it." Claire's breath shook. "My son got grabbed because of your door. My friend got taped. Your job was never going to save you." He cut in, still calm. "It was going to keep you tired." Claire felt ice run down her spine. "You've been watching me." "I've been watching Mercer," he corrected. "You were an unexpected variable." Claire's hands trembled around the pouch under her coat. "You used me." "I tested you," he said, "and you passed." Claire stared, sick. "Passed what?" The man leaned forward on the railing, voice carrying down with cold clarity. "When a person has nothing and still gives, that person is dangerous. Because they can't be bought, they can only be broken." Claire's mouth went dry. The man from Liam's room smiled wider, like he loved hearing that. Claire swallowed hard. "Where's Beth?" The gray-haired man nodded once, almost bored. "Bring her out." One of the silhouettes to Claire's right stepped back into the darkness. A second later, a metal door screeched. Beth stumbled out from behind the pillar, wrists zip-tied, mouth free now but swollen from the tape, cheeks streaked with tears. She looked at Claire like she'd been drowning and just saw air. "Claire!" Beth choked. Claire's chest cracked. "Beth!" Beth tried to run, but the man beside her yanked her back by the arm. Claire's entire body surged forward, then stopped when the man from Liam's room lifted his hand slightly. Not aiming, just reminding. Claire's gaze snapped to the van window. Liam's small face was still pressed to the glass, eyes wide, shaking. Claire forced herself to breathe. "Don't move fast. Don't give them a reason." She looked up at the bridge again. "Let her go." The gray-haired man tilted his head. "After you hand it over?" Claire's voice shook. "And then what? You let us go home?" The man's gaze stayed steady. "Home is a myth, Claire. You don't go back to before." Claire swallowed. "Then what do you want?" The gray-haired man's eyes hardened. "The photo." "And the coin." Claire's hand tightened around the pouch. "Why the photo?" "It's a funeral." His mouth tightened for the first time. A flicker, anger, buried. "Because it proves the record is wrong." Claire's blood ran cold. "The record is wrong because you made it wrong." The man didn't deny it. He simply said, "Mercer thinks the truth makes people free. He forgets the truth also makes people die." Claire's voice broke. "My husband died." The man nodded once. "Yes." Claire's vision blurred. "Did you kill him?" Silence, not denial, not confession, just silence, heavy enough to be an answer. Claire's knees went weak, but she held herself up with rage. "You sat in my diner and let me pay for you. You looked me in the face." The man's voice stayed calm. "And you didn't ask who I was," Claire spat, "because I didn't care." That actually made the man smile. Exactly. He lifted his chin slightly, and the man holding Beth tightened his grip until Beth gasped. Claire's body went rigid. Don't, Claire whispered. The gray-haired man spoke like he was explaining arithmetic. You want your friend. You want your son. You hand over the pouch. Claire's mind raced. If she handed it over, she lost the truth forever. Daniel had said that. If she kept it, they'd keep squeezing and squeezing until there was nothing left but yes. Her eyes flicked to the van again. Liam's little hands were on the horn button, trembling. Claire inhaled slowly, forcing her voice steady. Okay. The man from Liam's room relaxed slightly, already tasting the wind. Claire unzipped her coat and pulled the pouch out halfway so they could see it. Then she looked up at the man on the bridge and said, loud enough to carry, You said you're the one they salute. The gray-haired man's eyes narrowed. I am, Claire nodded, as if accepting it. Then you know what a salute is. A beat, she continued, voice shaking but clear. It's respect. It's honor. It's what men do when someone earned it. The man's expression didn't change. Claire's chest burned. My husband earned it. The gray-haired man's gaze flicked once, sharp. Don't. Claire swallowed hard. And you took it from him. The man's jaw tightened. Hand it over. Claire took a step forward very slowly, holding the pouch out. The men below leaned in just a fraction. Claire's eyes darted to Beth, one quick glance of apology and promise. Then she did it. She threw the pouch, not to them. Straight up, overhand, desperate, hard, aimed at the bridge railing. For half a second, the pouch was just a dark shape rising through headlights and falling snow. The gray-haired man's head snapped. The man from Liam's room shouted, No! The pouch hit the railing, bounced and dropped to the other side, down toward the frozen water and darkness beneath the bridge. Everyone moved at once. One of the men lunged for the edge. The man from Liam's room ran toward Claire. Claire pivoted and screamed with everything in her chest. Liam! Horn! Now! The van's horn exploded under the bridge, a long, blaring scream that filled the concrete like an alarm in a vault. At the same moment, Claire grabbed a handful of snow and flung it into the man's eyes as he reached her. He cursed, stumbling. Claire ran straight for Beth. She slammed her shoulder into the man holding Beth, knocking him off balance, and yanked Beth toward her with both hands. Beth stumbled, sobbing. Claire! Run! Claire hissed. The man from Liam's room recovered fast, wiping snow from his eyes, reaching into his coat. A gun came up. Claire froze. Then a voice boomed from the bridge above, no longer calm. Stop! The gun hesitated, not because of fear of law, because the voice carried authority like gravity. The gray-haired man leaned over the railing, face tight with real anger now. Do not fire, he snapped. Not here. The man below lowered the gun, jaw clenched, eyes full of hate. Claire dragged Beth toward the van while the horn kept screaming, echoing down the road, begging for witnesses. Beth stumbled beside her, wrists still bound. He's... I know, Claire panted. Get in. Claire yanked the van door open. Beth climbed into the back shaking, and Claire slammed it shut and locked it again. Claire lunged into the driver's seat. In the mirror she saw the men moving again, faster now, frantic. One ran toward the bridge edge, another rushed toward the van. Claire turned the key. The engine coughed, came alive. She slammed it into drive and hit the gas. The van lurched forward out from under the bridge. As she sped away, she saw the gray-haired man descending from the bridge steps, moving with sudden urgency, yelling orders into the night. Not about her, about the pouch. Because in that pouch was the thing he needed destroyed. Beth's sobbing filled the van. Liam cried in relief, reaching forward from the back seat, pressing his face to Claire's shoulder for a second when she leaned back at a red light she didn't stop for. Claire's hands shook on the wheel. Beth, she gasped. Where's Daniel? Where did they take him? Beth's voice trembled. I heard them say it. I heard the name of the place. Claire's pulse spiked. What place? Beth swallowed hard, eyes wide with terror. The courthouse, she whispered. They said, they're finishing it at the courthouse. Claire's stomach dropped. The courthouse ceremony. The salute. It hadn't been about honoring Daniel. It had been about controlling the town's eyes while they ended him. And Claire realized, with a cold clarity that made her hands steady for the first time in hours. If she kept running, Daniel dies in silence. If she turns back, she's driving straight into the place where everyone will be standing, saluting, and no one will see the knife. Claire didn't answer right away. She drove. The road back to Cedar Hollow felt shorter than it should have been, like the town was pulling her in by the throat. The van rattled over broken asphalt. Snow hit the windshield in hard little bursts. Beth sat in the back seat with Liam, wrists still zip-tied, whispering to him like a prayer. "Look at me," Beth told him. "Breathe slow. You're safe." Liam tried to believe her. His eyes kept flicking to the mirrors. Claire's grip on the wheel was iron now. Fear had burned down into something colder. "Beth," she said, voice tight. "The pouch. When I threw it, you sure it went under the bridge?" Beth swallowed. "I saw it fall. I heard it hit ice." Claire nodded once. Good. Good enough. They crested the last hill, and Cedar Hollow opened below. Lights, the courthouse clock tower, the holiday banners still up like the town hadn't earned them. The courthouse lawn was lit like a stage. Cars lined the street, people in coats, phones out, flags, music. The ceremony was still going. The salute wasn't over. Claire pulled into a side street a block away and killed the engine. Silence hit like a slap. "Stay here," she told Beth, turning in her seat. "Lock the doors. If anyone comes close, horn. Long. Don't stop." Beth's eyes were wide. "Claire, what are you doing?" Claire reached into the glove box and pulled out the Faraday bag. Her original phone was still inside, dead to the world. She set it aside and grabbed the burner. "This phone is clean," she said. "For now." She looked at Liam. His cheeks were streaked with dried tears. He clutched his bear so hard it bent. "Baby," Claire whispered, "I need you to be the bravest you've ever been." Liam's mouth trembled. "I don't want you to go." Claire leaned in and pressed her forehead to his. "You remember what I said last night? Stuff can be replaced." Liam sniffled. "But you're not stuff." Claire's throat tightened. "I'm coming back." It wasn't a promise she could guarantee, but she said it anyway because he needed something to hold on to. Claire climbed out and pulled her hood up. The cold bit immediately. She didn't walk toward the crowd. She walked around it, through alleys and behind parked cars, until she reached the side of the courthouse where the staff entrance was. A deputy stood there. Real uniform, real badge. He looked up, surprised. "Ma'am, you can't." Claire stepped close, voice low. "My name is Claire Carson. My son was threatened. My friend was kidnapped. Men pretended to be police, and Daniel Mercer is inside and they're going to kill him." The deputy's face tightened at the name. Not confusion, recognition. "Who told you that?" he snapped. Claire met his eyes. "The same people who know where my son sleeps." The deputy hesitated, then spoke into his radio fast. "Need the sheriff at the side entrance, now." Claire's burner buzzed in her pocket. A text. "You're close. Don't get heroic." She ignored it. The sheriff arrived in seconds. Older man, hard eyes, breath fogging. He looked Claire up and down like he'd already been briefed. "Carson," he said, controlled. "Where's the coin?" Claire didn't blink. "Gone." The sheriff's jaw clenched. "Where's Mercer?" Claire's voice stayed steady. "Inside. And if you're on their side, you'll try to stall me." The sheriff stared for a beat. Then he did something Claire didn't expect. He opened the door. "Move," he said. Claire's heart slammed. She stepped into the courthouse hallway, warm air hitting her face. The sound of the ceremony outside muffled behind heavy walls. Inside, everything smelled like waxed floors and old paper. Decorations in the lobby, a Christmas wreath over a bulletin board. It felt obscene. The sheriff moved fast, down a corridor toward a conference room that shouldn't have been in use on a holiday. Two deputies followed, tense, hands near their belts. Claire's stomach churned. "Beth said they're finishing it here." The sheriff didn't answer. He reached the door and stopped. From inside, voices. One calm and low, familiar. Another voice clipped, controlled. Then a third, sharp with impatience. The sheriff pulled his gun and kicked the door open. The room snapped into motion. Daniel Mercer was on his feet near a table, face bruised, one hand bound behind him with a plastic cuff that had been cut halfway through. He looked up, eyes immediately searching for Claire, for Liam, for danger. Across the table stood the gray-haired man from the bridge, coat perfect, expression calm, like this was a meeting he chaired. And beside him, the man from Liam's room, smiling faintly, hand hovering near his jacket. For half a second, nobody moved, because even predators pause when the wrong kind of authority walks in. The sheriff's voice hit like a gavel. "Hands where I can see them, now!" The gray-haired man didn't raise his hands. He simply looked at the sheriff like the sheriff was late. Sheriff, he said, this is federal. Daniel's jaw tightened. It's criminal, he said. The man from Liam's room laughed softly. Here we go. Claire stepped into the doorway fully. Where's my friend's zip ties? She snapped. Where's my son's fingerprints on his neck? The gray-haired man's eyes slid to her. Claire Carson, he said, almost fond. You should have stayed grateful. Claire felt something settle in her chest, heavy and final. You said thank you for the coffee. He nodded. I did. Claire's voice shook with rage. Then here's what you don't understand. I didn't pay because you were important. I paid because you looked like you'd forgotten what it feels like when someone treats you like a human being. The gray-haired man's expression tightened. Just a crack. Daniel's eyes flicked to Claire, warning and urgency in them. Not now. But Claire was past not now. The sheriff barked again. Hands! Now! The man from Liam's room moved first, fast, reaching inside his coat. A deputy fired, not to kill, enough to stop. The man jerked back with a scream, dropping something metallic that skittered across the tile. The room exploded into motion. Deputies rushed. Daniel lunged toward the table, grabbing the gray-haired man's arm, not to fight, to keep him from stepping back into some invisible protection. The gray-haired man didn't panic. He leaned close to Daniel, voice like ice. The salute is over, he murmured. You were supposed to stay buried. Daniel's eyes burned. You buried Andrew, he said, raw, and you used his widow as bait. Claire's stomach turned at her husband's name in that room. The sheriff snapped cuffs onto the gray-haired man anyway. For the first time, Claire saw something real in the man's face, not fear, contempt. You can't hold me, he said softly to the sheriff. You'll get a call. The sheriff's grip didn't loosen. Then they can come say it to my face. The gray-haired man's eyes flicked to Claire one last time. You threw away the pouch, he said. That was inconvenient. Claire leaned forward. Good, he smiled, thin. You think you won, but you only changed who gets to own your story. Claire's voice went low. No, I changed who gets to tell it. Outside, the ceremony continued. Music, applause, oblivious. Inside, the sheriff hauled the man toward the hall. Daniel sagged for one beat, then steadied. A deputy cut the plastic cuff off his wrist. Claire's knees went weak, but she stayed standing. Daniel, she whispered. He turned to her. For the first time since Maples, he looked tired, not injured. Tired. Soul tired. You shouldn't have come back, he said. Claire's eyes burned. You were going to die. Daniel's gaze dropped. I was prepared. Claire stepped closer. I wasn't. He looked at her then, finally, his voice softened. You saved me, he said. Claire shook her head. You don't get to put that on me. Daniel's jaw tightened. Claire, you paid for a stranger's coffee on Christmas Eve. You did it when you had nothing. That act forced a man who's been hiding behind power to step into the light. Claire's throat tightened. What about Andrew? Daniel's face changed at the name. He reached into his coat and pulled out something small, another coin. Not the decoy, real, scratched, used. He placed it in Claire's palm. This was Andrew's, he said quietly. He gave it to me the day he saved my life. He told me, if they ever tell her accident, don't believe it. Claire's breath broke. So he knew. Daniel nodded. He knew what it would look like. He just didn't know they'd do it anyway. Claire's hands trembled around the coin. Then why didn't you come sooner? Daniel's eyes held hers. Because I thought keeping distance would protect you. I was wrong. A deputy stepped in. Sheriff wants your statement, ma'am. Claire nodded without looking away from Daniel. One thing, she whispered. My son. Beth. Daniel's gaze sharpened. Where are they? In the van, Claire said. A block away. Daniel exhaled. Get them inside. Now. Break. An hour later, Liam sat wrapped in a courthouse blanket drinking hot chocolate from a paper cup too big for his hands. Beth sat beside him, shaking but alive, speaking quietly with a female deputy who kept her voice gentle. Claire stood in the hall with Daniel and the sheriff. The sheriff's jaw was still clenched like he was waiting for a phone to ring and prove the gray-haired man right. It didn't. Not yet. Daniel spoke first, voice low. The pouch, under the bridge. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. We get it back, Daniel nodded. We do, and we log it. We photograph it. We move it into evidence where it can't disappear. Claire swallowed. And then what? Daniel looked at her. Then we correct the record. The sheriff finally spoke, gruff. You understand what that means, Claire? Your life becomes public. Claire glanced down the hall where Liam sat. He looked up at her and tried to smile like he was brave. Claire's voice steadied. My life has been public to the wrong people for years. I'd rather it be public to the right ones. The sheriff exhaled hard, then nodded once. Okay. Break. 2 weeks later, Cedar Hollow's courthouse lawn looked different. No Christmas banners, no fake cheer, just a clean winter sun and rows of people standing not for a spectacle, but for truth. Claire stood with Liam beside the memorial stone, his small hand inside hers. Beth stood behind them, still healing, still shaking sometimes, but standing. Daniel stood a step back, not stealing the moment. A folded flag rested on a table. A brass band waited, silent. And then, for the first time, a clerk read the words that had been kept from Claire's mailbox for years. Line of duty. Special circumstances, full honors, benefits reinstated. It didn't erase anything. It didn't bring Andrew back. But it stopped the lie from being the only thing left. When the names were read, the crowd didn't clap. They stood in silence that actually meant something. Then, Daniel stepped forward. He didn't give a heroic speech. He didn't make it about himself. He told the story the town hadn't expected. A single mom waitress on Christmas Eve, $4 short of what she needed, paying anyway. Not knowing the man she helped was the one everyone saluted. Not knowing that her small act would force a reckoning. He didn't say her name at first, but people turned toward her anyway. Because Cedar Hollow is small and truth travels fast when it finally has permission. Daniel looked at Claire then, and his voice went lower. Some people think power is what saves families, he said. They're wrong. What saved this family was a moment of kindness that couldn't be bought. Claire's throat tightened. Liam squeezed her hand harder. When the ceremony ended, Daniel stepped down from the podium and walked to the memorial. He placed Andrew's coin at the base of the stone. Then he straightened, and he saluted. Not the cameras, not the crowd, the name carved in stone. Then, as he lowered his hand, he turned and looked at Claire. The crowd was silent, waiting. Daniel stepped closer, stopping at a respectful distance like she still deserved control of the space between them. He raised his hand again, and this time, he saluted her. Not because she was chosen, not because she'd been pulled into someone else's war, because when she had nothing, she still gave. Claire didn't salute back. She didn't need to. She just nodded once, tears burning, and pulled Liam into her side. Liam looked up at Daniel, serious. Are the bad guys gone? Daniel's jaw tightened. Some of them. Liam frowned. Then why are you smiling? Daniel glanced at Claire, and for the first time there was something close to peace in his eyes. Because, Daniel said quietly, the ones who think they can erase people just learned they can't erase your mom. Claire looked out at the memorial stone, at the coin resting there, at the winter sun. She didn't feel saved by power. She felt saved by what she'd always had, and almost forgotten under bills and exhaustion. A spine. And as they walked away, Beth leaned in and whispered, voice still shaky but real. You know what's crazy? Claire wiped her cheek. What? Beth nodded toward the crowd, people approaching to offer help, not pity. Jobs, support, warm hands, real community. Beth said, you paid $4, and it cost them everything. Claire looked down at Liam, who was already talking about hot chocolate like he was reclaiming normal. Then she looked back at the courthouse, where a man who once thought he owned the story was now just another defendant in a file that couldn't be buried. Claire didn't smile big. She didn't celebrate. She just breathed. And for the first time in a long time, her breath didn't feel borrowed.